Here we go. Okay, we're live. RFK Jr. is preparing an independent run, so say the reports. And based on the polling data, it looks like this will be a major spike for Democrats. And now Ross Perot is trending on Twitter. But I like RFK Jr. I think he knows what he's doing and should be interesting. Obviously, there was very, very big news. There's not much to add to it, but rest in peace, Senator Feinstein. She passed away. That's the news, a sad story, but this is what happens. People get old, they pass on. So I can give respect to the public service. But outside of that, I must be honest, I am no fan of the professional lives of 99% of these people who are in Congress anyway. So human respect, rest in peace, Dianne Feinstein. And I believe Gavin Newsom is going to be choosing a replacement, which will be interesting because now you've got Bob Menendez on the ropes. They want him to resign. He's not gonna. With Feinstein out, this weaken's Democratic control of the Senate, but I think they'll be fine. Before we get started on the news, my friends, head over to timcast.com. Click Timcast IRL X Miami. Pick up your tickets. The event is next Friday. In 1 week, we will see all of you live. Friday, October 6th, Miami, with Patrick Bet-David, James O'Keefe, Matt Gaetz, Lou Grodkowski. Me and Ian will be there. We're going to have a whole bunch of guests there. Phil's going to be there. We got Alex Stein, who is going to be performing a stand-up set just before the show. We have a pre-show with Public Square, who's sponsoring the event. We have an after show just for you guys. And this special event, Friday night, the Friday episode next week, will be exclusive to timcast.com members only. We are hoping that events like this can help support the company, the website, the shows that we do, and be a great way to help build the membership. Because go to timcast.com, click join us when you're a member. It's not just about watching these shows or watching the Uncensored Show. It's that we've got a lively community of people, of members, who host morning shows where they all talk to each other, after shows where they hang out and talk about the show, and they're working on projects together. So if you're looking to be involved, if there are people you want to meet and talk to, find like-minded individuals, become a member at timcast.com because you're going to be watching various shows that we produce. You're going to be watching and listening to the shows the members are producing, and you guys are going to be sharing ideas. So shout out to the Discord members who are doing all of this really awesome work building culture. And if you want to support our endeavors with our coffee shop, with our anti-Times Square and all the things we're working on, become a member at timcast.com. And again, shout out to Public Square, one of the most effective tools in winning the culture war, sponsoring our Miami event. Download the app. It's an app where you can find businesses that have pledged to support American values, so you can support all the good boycotts. Only buy from those companies, support them, let people who buy from people who believe in your values. Also, smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Rich Baris.
It's good to be back, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Who are you? What do you do?
Pollster, People's Pundit. I'm thinking about this RFK thing.
Yeah,
Can I just start rolling on it?
Well, it is really interesting that every so often we have a guest perfectly aligned with the big story. And right now the big story is that RFK is planning to run as an independent. And then we have the People's Pundit here to talk about polling, but we'll get into it in a second. We'll run through these introductions. So we've got Phil Labonte hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains, very failed musician, anti-communist, and counter-revolutionary.
Thank you, Rockstar.
Cheers.
I'm Ian Crossland. Happy to be here.
Never going to get old.
I'm
looking so much fun.
Yeah, it is. It just gets better and better with age. Well, Serge, take us home because I want to hear about Rich's thoughts on this.
Let's get started. I am Serge.com.
Here's the story from the Post-Millennial. Breaking: RFK Jr. plans to announce independent run for president. Kennedy plans to make the announcement on October 9th in Philadelphia. Good place to do it. According to Mediaite, Kennedy plans to make the announcement October 9th in Philly with a text message viewed by the outlet stating that his campaign is planning attack ads against the Democrat National Committee to pave the way for the announcement. Bobby feels the DNC is changing the rules to exclude his candidacy, so an independent run is the only way to go. On Saturday, New York Times published a piece stating that Kennedy met with Libertarian Party Chair Angela McArdle in July at a Memphis conference. He emphasized that he has committed to running as a Democrat, but said that he considered himself very libertarian. McArdle said, adding, "We're aligned on a lot of issues, including the threat of the deep state." Here's what I think. I think they gave Kennedy the middle finger, which they should not have done. He's polling decently. I mean, polls have him in a wide range from 7 up to 25%. I think you were saying before the show that 7's a little low, 25's a little high. Yeah. But if he runs as an independent and he goes after the DNC over this, he is spiking the Democratic Party. This is going to help Trump.
this is a couple of things. One, if you're Trump, though, we had been asking, if your guy doesn't get the nomination, what are you going to do? And 33
of Republicans.
Yeah, of everyone.
Of everyone.
Everyone. So if for the Democrats, people who chose RFK, 30-something% for months have said, well, if it's Trump, I'll vote for Trump. So if you're Trump, you're looking at it, you're like, I want some soon to be disaffected RFK voters like Bernie voters in 2016.
Right.
So there's that part of it. There is scant polling on this. We're going to poll this. We're going to poll this, and we're going to poll this soon to see, Biden, the Democrat, Trump, the Republican, and of RFK, the independent. And we'll put West in there too. We'll see what it really, that's going to happen. He'll be on the ballot.
Cornell.
Yeah, I mean, Democrats are going to get spiked across the board.
If this
Cornell
really
West.
if this goes bad for Democrats, which it may not. I mean, I'll wait to see what the data says. But if it does, you're looking at the Ross Perot analogy is accurate. Then, folks,
what would be really hilarious though. There's a lot. Mike Cernovich's got a series of tweets that we're going to talk about in a second. Very dire ones. But this fear of losing in 2024, and I'm just kind of like, could you imagine if it's like Donald Trump gets 43% of the vote? But Biden, because of Cornell West and RFK, only gets like 39.
And he'll wind up with Tim. He'd win states Republicans don't win if that happens.
RFK?
No, I mean Trump. He would take Maine. He's definitely going to take Maine. There would be some states that are really uncomfortable.
So let's think about let's Maine.
Yeah.
What percentage does the Republican candidate get in Maine on average for the president?
Depends. If you're Donald Trump, you get pretty close. You take the second congressional district, and you can get within 8 points usually, which doesn't sound like a lot, but Maine doesn't have a big population.
What did we have? So that means Trump's at where does that within 8 points? What does that put him at? 46 to Biden's 54.
I think he got 44 last time, something like that.
And then Biden ended up with like 42 or 43.
Well, no, 52 in Maine.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So
I didn't realize he lost that much of the remaining votes.
Yeah,
right?
If though, let's say West is on there, he takes 4. So now
RFK takes 10,
and then you're looking
Trump
at Biden.
Wins Maine.
Biden with 38, Trump wins Maine with 45%.
This is a game changer, man.
You mentioned Ross Perot and what happened in '92. I don't know if people listening even know the Ross Perot story, but he came out of nowhere, out of the business sector, and ran for president in 1992 against George Herbert Walker Bush and Bill Clinton. And everyone expected George Herbert Walker Bush to win his second term as president. He was the incumbent. But Ross Perot split the vote, and then Clinton took it.
Yeah, Clinton never was elected with a majority. People don't really look back on him.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, way less, 44%.
Right.
They look back at him, and he's got a high hindsight approval rating. So people are like, oh, well, he must have. They just think he blazed right past Bush and then Dole. He didn't. There is, though, something that's nagging me in the back of my mind, though. He's an anti-establishment guy. And when you have two anti-establishment guys, I'm looking at it as a lane. We'll see.
I disagree. I disagree. There are leftist anti-establishment.
That's true.
But like very few. And what I think you have, 2016, where was I? I was like, I said in 2016, I'm not voting for Trump. 2015, I'm not voting for Trump. 2017, 2018, 2019, then 2020, Trump put out his list of what his plan was. And then I said, like, if this is Trump's plan, these agenda items, I agree with too much of this
I'm on board.
Honestly say I would vote against it. And considering they're trying to run Joe Biden, and we know what Biden's all about, I cannot honestly say I could support the Democratic Party. There were a lot of people who are still Democrats who voted in 2020 for Biden, who are now saying it was a mistake. But some of these people are saying, please let it be RFK or literally anyone else. They are begging Biden not to be there. If Biden is the nominee and RFK runs an independent, there are people who are Democrats who are upset about what happened with Joe Biden, or upset at the state of the country, but still won't vote for Trump. They'll either not vote West or vote RFK.
Trump's floor is solid.
Trump's
bottom end is locked in. You are like the MAGA people.
You think so? I mean, I don't think he works out.
The MAGA people are just, they're not going to change no matter what. He was right when he said, I could go out in Fifth Avenue and shoot someone, and they would still vote for him. That is still the case. The people that love Donald Trump love him to death. I don't think that there's a whole lot of chance for Joe Biden if it's split up between Kennedy and I forget what his name is. We were just talking about him.
West.
Cornel West.
I mean, though they will split the Democrat, and I don't like Trump vote up, and I think enough where Trump would get in. Now, this is just talking a year and a half or a year and change early, so obviously all this can change, and this is just my first impression. But I'm confident that Donald Trump's floor isn't changing. You know, so
yeah. Let me just point out because nobody talks about this. What they did to this guy, changing the schedule, front loading South Carolina
To RFK.
Oh, I mean, the first in the nation primary and caucus status is out. That's done. We're talking about a culture, a heritage that went on for years. There's a reason why Joe Biden's state is South Carolina. That's his solid early state contest. And they front loaded it on the schedule, something that nobody would ever think they would do.
Oh, they voted early? They moved the vote?
it on the calendar. So Iowa, it no longer is the first in the nation contest, and New Hampshire is no longer the first in the nation primary. So it's a big move.
They did that intentionally or assumedly because to do it before RFK could even campaign. They want to get the vote.
Yes, they wanted Joe Biden to have a win right away, and then small states are cheaper to compete in. So.
Let me pull up this poll, and we got 538 right here. This is the Democratic primary polls, even though there probably isn't going to be one, but this is interesting. They've got Kennedy in second place with 15%. This is McLaughlin Associates. ABC News and the Washington Post doesn't have Kennedy. Have Biden versus Harris, which is really interesting. Don't know why they would do that. Biden beats Harris by 30 points. Wow. And then we have Harris X with Kennedy at 20% and a second poll at 16. We have Emerson with Kennedy at 14, YouGov with Kennedy at 7, and Rasmussen with Kennedy at 25. University of New Hampshire for the primary in New Hampshire has Kennedy at 9. Then you've got 19, 15, 14 as the remaining polls. All of these polls show Kennedy in second place in the double digits. So about 14, 15 seems reasonable for Kennedy.
We were at 15 last time. Our last poll we're about to do another national. We try to do one a month. He was at 15.
I hope he runs.
Yeah.
It would just be the most hilarious thing in the world if Trump gets 43% nationally and then wins.
It kind of reminds me
with a felony.
It reminds me of
with 91
when Bernie Sanders in 2016 was getting pushed out by Hillary and the DNC, and he didn't go independent. Now RFK is going independent. I thought at the time Bernie was going to kowtow to the DNC and then they were going to win, but they didn't win. So I my projection ability is like whacked since 2016. I thought for sure the deep state was taking it, and for Trump to come out on top was shocking. So maybe that can happen again. I don't know.
It's funny that all of these people were crying because the deep state didn't win in 2016. Like those videos of all the Democrats crying. It's like, oh no, the CIA lost an election.
The raincoat girl. Remember that?
No.
I still see the picture.
DC, the raincoat. Yeah. But that's her. Yeah, it's just insane.
What are you screaming for? What do you care? These people are insane. But I guess, whatever. I don't know what happened in their lives where they really thought that Trump was the apocalypse. You know? Right now, the Democrats are arresting lawyers. They're arresting protesters on putting them on 20 years. They're arresting their political opposition.
Yep.
And they're just like, this is fine.
I think,
like, bro, if anyone has a right to scream no.
They don't even want to admit that it's happening. Most of my friends that are left leaning or that are come from the music industry or whatever, they don't admit that, or they refuse to acknowledge that there are political persecutions. They're like, oh, well, it's fine because it's Trump, or well, they did this or they did that. And the spirit of the law, the intent of the law is totally irrelevant to them. It's just, oh, the government said they did something wrong. I don't like those people, so the government must be right. It is totally the unthinking, completely knee-jerk gut react. Excuse me. So,
man, it's disturbing stuff. Unimpeded, I think RFK goes independent, stakes votes away from decrepit Joe Biden. Democrats lose, Trump wins, but I don't see an unimpeded course. In the future.
But hold on. With if he runs as an independent and he really does get 14 to let's say 15% right now of the Democratic vote. So this means that the correlation. What would the correlation be to the general vote? Like 7%, 6%?
Well, that depends on turnout. The electorate is getting more Republican. So once upon a time, it would be D plus 3 in 2016, something like that. 2020 was even R plus 1. So
wow,
yeah, it's
in the presidential election.
Yeah, and this is something that's big, and people have to talk about it. The higher the turnout, the more Republican the electorates are going to be now. That is, for the first time in my life, I've never seen that before. It always was Republicans biting their fingernails, hoping that young people don't vote, non-whites.
But it's not going to be 2-1. It's not going to be like 5%. It's probably going to be around half to maybe like 45%.
Yeah. I mean,
so
a little less than half.
If RFK is polling on the Democrat side around 15, in the general election, he might poll about 6-7 points away from Joe Biden.
Yeah, let's say the 40% of the electorate, something
there
like
you go.
that. Yeah.
So maybe 6%.
6%.
Not quite a third, but a little bit more.
Yeah.
Look at this. So he polled up the 1992 election. Bill Clinton, 43%. And the funny thing is, were people, I'm asking this legitimately, were people complaining that he did not get the majority?
You mean back then?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Because right now they're all like,
Republicans.
Trump won without getting, in 2016, he didn't get the popular vote. Oh, geez. Okay, well, imagine what's going to happen if RFK runs, splits the Democratic vote, and Trump wins with 43%.
This goes, and there was a poll the other day about abolishing the Electoral College. Same thing with this. It goes back and forth depending on who is at the, the butt end of the stick, right? So in 2000, Bush won, but he lost a popular vote. Democrats wanted to abolish the Electoral College. In 2004, it looked like Bush would win the popular vote. Then they wanted to keep the Electoral College. I mean, it just goes back and forth no matter who. And Gallup has been doing that for years. That's why when something's in place like that, it shouldn't be up for national referendum. So I hate those polls. They're totally irrelevant. Who cares if somebody supports the Electoral College or not? There's a reason for it. We don't want a civil war or upheaval. Let's keep it. So this can happen again, though. So I'm glad you pulled that up, because I tell people this when we're looking at Trump's write-in vote. People who are voting for Trump in the primary say, if the man is not nominated, I will either write his name in some space on the ballot or I will not vote. And it's 30+%.
Do those
It can
count?
happen.
Those write-ins?
You won't see them that night. They won't count them that night. But yes,
right.
eventually they will.
Yep.
You'll see.
I want to pull up these tweets from Mike Cernovich talking about what happens when we lose in 2024. Now, I certainly think Mike is a bit, what's the right word? These tweets are very, very, very serious. I believe they may be a bit aggressive, but I think the spirit of them is correct. Now that I've given you that warning, you'll understand when I read them for you. Mike Cernovich tweeted, "When we lose in 2024, I'll be hunted down and murdered by the regime. Have already had this talk with my family. All these goober conservatives think they'll be okay. They won't. Look up the Bolshevik Revolution. Y'all gonna be imprisoned, and you people have no clue." He was quote tweeting himself. He said in this tweet, "Showing these older tweets as I tend to be ahead, years usually on subjects, people attack me, and then years later copy my swag. Now I'll tell you the future. 2024 is total defeat. The RNC isn't even running ads on X, let alone doing other voter registration at scale." He then said, when we lose, he'll be hunted down. And then he added this: "If you're a conservative with a large platform, have you talked to your family about how you're going to be framed for a crime to be killed in 2024 if Biden wins? If you think this is hyperbole, you've not been paying attention. 2024 is life or death. It's time to understand." Well, I'm going to just show you Elijah Schaffer. He responded saying, "I've already begun taking precautions. I'm international for a reason." I find that to be a very interesting response from Mr. Schaffer. And while I do think Mike's tweets may be a bit aggressive, it's not so. People misunderstand these conversations because their view of the world is based on a movie. And in movies, what happens is the evil dictator, supreme emperor, takes power and then appears in a ghastly image with a hood and goes, "Execute Order 66." And then all of a sudden, all the good guys are just purged from existence. That's not really how it happens. What you need to understand about this stuff is, okay, so a tech entrepreneur in Baltimore was just beaten to death, raped, and murdered in her own home. And the man who did it was known to the police because only a few days earlier, he had beaten, tortured, and raped a woman in front of her boyfriend and then set them both on fire. I say these things because, understand, that was for no reason. When Mike Cernovich says, when we lose, these things will happen, perhaps a bit aggressive, as I stated, because, we don't know what the time frame for kind of extremism will be. But there are several things you need to understand. One, we've got Chaz Chop already happening. We've got occupations already happening around the country. These things don't happen overnight. If you look to the American Revolution, the Boston Tea Party and the Boston Massacre were years apart. Lexington and Concord was 11 years after the start of the Revolutionary period. The actual start of the Revolutionary War took 11 years from the start of the period we determined to be revolutionary. You get Chaz Chop, in a matter of a couple of years, you have autonomous zones. We currently have Stop Cop City right now in Georgia, where hundreds of people went out and staged these acts of violence. We have 100 people in Philadelphia ransacking stores in total disregard for the law. That's social breakdown and social disorder. What I think would happen in the immediate is, I'll just put it this way. Mike Cernovich is not wrong. I don't think he'll be hunted down and murdered. I think he'll be Julian Assanged. People like Mike Cernovich, who pose a threat to the established order of the military-industrial complex and the neoconservative, neo-lib military agenda, whatever you want to call it, you'll get Julian Assanged, meaning they're going to accuse you like Russell Brand. I would not be surprised if Russell Brand ends up getting convicted. They've already found Donald Trump civilly liable for the most psychotic rape story imaginable. They've already ordered the dissolution of Trump's companies, and he's facing 91 indictments. Now, that's Trump. But people keep saying this thing where it's like, I'll be okay. Well, Aaron Danielson's not okay. He took 2 to the chest. He's no longer around. So perhaps, again, a bit aggressive, because I don't know if it's effective messaging to say, they're going to kill you. They're screaming. Well, look, guys, the reality is dark days are in front of us. How long this period takes, we don't know. I actually don't think we're facing total defeat in 2024. I disagree with Mike on this. I respect his opinion. I think he's very smart. I think he does see ahead better than most. But I do see a possibility for victory in 2024, especially now that RFK is running. This changes the game substantially. But just understand, even if Trump does win, it doesn't mean whatever is happening in this country ends. When you have far left extremists storming government property, firebombing things, when it is the norm for them to go on social media and threaten people with death. And the reason why we bring this story up first is because the next story we're talking about is the guy who threatened to blow up Andy Ngo's speaking event was arrested. So there's still law and order, a little bit. Social order is breaking down when you look at San Francisco, when you look at Philadelphia, when you look at Chicago, New York, these flash mobs all over the place. That shows social order breakdown. And understand this. What do you think the government does when social order breaks down? Do you think that the government will come protect you when you are under attack by violent mobs of lawless rioters? Look only to 2020 when there are 2 big stories. A woman was in her car surrounded by rioters screaming and banging on her car, and she called 911. And they said, what do you want us to do? And she goes, they're attacking me. What do I do? I have my daughter in the car. And they're like, ma'am, what do you want us to do? Good luck. Another guy in his apartment said that people were fighting in his lobby and the rioting was get there. And he was told, sir, the city is under attack. What would you have us do? I love the writing of the game Fallout 3. You guys, I think you're all familiar with it at this point. I talk about it a lot. So for those that aren't familiar, Fallout video game, I know it's fiction, but it's written by humans who are looking at what happens around the world and what they think may occur. The video game is about a nuclear annihilation. Nuclear war wipes out the world, and then everyone goes into vaults, simplified version. The government becomes something called the Enclave, the remnants of the United States government. And you know what they do? They shoot and kill you in the game. And this is, I think, correct writing on the part of the game developers. The U.S. government will seek to preserve itself, and you are in the way. So when we begin seeing non-citizens being shipped into Staten Island, what do the police do? Beat and arrest the residents of Staten Island. They seek to preserve themselves by any means necessary, and you are in the way. So what Mike is saying and my concerns are more so, it's not that Biden will get reelected and order the police to execute Order 66. It's that they're going to say, circle the wagons around government and destroy in any way possible anyone who threatens us.
If you want to know what's going to happen, you can look to what happened in the Cultural Revolution in China. There is ample examples of what happens when the government has a change of what the fundamental principles that government stands for means, and the way that the population reacts and the way that the government reacts. We saw in 2020 a whole lot of rioting and a whole lot of stuff going on, and the police could not, and maybe they could have, but they refused to do anything about it. I don't see any reason why, if there is some other type of civil unrest like that, how the police or the government would behave any differently.
I would hope that they would see the mistake they made in 2020 by letting it get out of hand and not stomping it on day 2.
It didn't get out of hand.
Well,
to them, they got what they wanted. In fact, it worked perfectly.
What I'm wondering is, because you were saying, I think Tim mentioned it's like a dissolution of order in the system, but what I definitely see is a rise of organized crime in the system. These people that are organizing on Facebook chats, wherever, Signal, they're organizing flash mobs, they're organizing. And it's like not one organization, it's a lot of little organizations, but it's a new type of organized crime that needs to be dealt with. And it's maybe that the government doesn't know how to deal with it quite yet. They got their spy tech, but it's just so disparate, it's hard to see it coming. You've got 9 poor kids in Philadelphia that want to get on a Signal chat and decide to go break into a Best Buy at 9 o'clock. Like, you can't, how does the government, so it might be that they are unequipped. Worst case scenario, they're complicit.
They're letting it happen.
That's what I fear the most, because if the government gets behind organized crime, then you're looking at a cultural revolution. That's like what it is. Hopefully they want to stomp it out as much as the citizens do, and they're just looking for a time and a place.
Yeah, he mentions the Bolshevik in the tweet. You just mentioned the cultural. All of these have in common a plan for different tiers in society, right? So the average normal person, that's a problem, would be dealt with a lot differently, right? Maybe they just leave that to the flash mobs. Maybe that they leave that to the activists and the extremists. But people like Cernovich, maybe even some of us, seriously, that would be different. The Julian Assange treatment, lawfare when it can be done. I know people who have been indicted in Georgia, were this close to being indicted in Georgia. So they're there, but I guess that matters. What role are you playing and how influential are you in opposing something that they don't like? I do just want to bring up this 2024 is total defeat. I don't know if he's using reverse psychology there or what, but he's right about the RNC not doing enough. So as a pollster, I look at this and I say, they're indicting Trump because he has improved so much with certain groups that Republicans are not supposed to win. They know that. And they're looking at that. And they're saying, what other choice do I have? I might as well, because if this man gets back in, it may be me on the block. Still, the RNC is way behind in infrastructure. They should have done much better in 22 and didn't, because they still don't really understand what they're up against. And even watching, because I know about this, even watching some of them trying to get it together and trying to deal with ballot harvesting. It's a messiah complex on the right. Everyone wants to be the hero. They're not working together like Democrats work together.
Yep. Well, I highlighted this in a segment where I was talking about Democrats going full communist because they're cheering for the ruling against Trump's businesses, where the judge basically banged the gavel, summary judgment, no more Trump organization. And I showed this voting chart of the social scale and the economic scale. Trump's voters are anti-woke, but spread out between the left and the right. Trump even has communists who support him. Like, I don't mean like the ideological communists of the woke. I mean people who believe in very far left progressive economic systems of government control. He has very few actually laissez-faire capitalists, interestingly, but they're very. It's the cluster is in the center.
Actually, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
The Democrat bloc is clustered entirely in the far left social and economic area, which means they mostly just march in lockstep. Not completely. There are Democrats reaching up into the less woke area, but the cluster, maybe the plurality, or majority, is all hyper concentrated in one circle, ultra woke, as far left as possible in both economic and social. Again, Trump's base was anti-woke, opposing the social left, but spread out in terms of economic policy, which explains shows like this.
Well, not to jump in again. I didn't know.
Take it away, Rich.
But I have to point out again that they know that. They're starting to see that. So, Obama's old pollster, he puts out a poll last month, and he's having a meltdown over it. And of course, they're all trying to make themselves feel better. So on top of that, they're trying to see how some of the people on different ends of that spectrum react if you ask things like, well, what if he's convicted of, one felony, two felony, right? They're just trying to get some good news out of it. And when all is said and done, a lot of these people, I don't think are going to care when they are looking at, maybe they're not saying it out loud like Cernovich is saying it, but I do feel like listening to people that we interview all the time, a lot of people are where Cernovich is here, even being hyperbolic. And if you notice who is
Well, he's saying it's not
attacked-
hyperbole.
Yeah, right. Even if you look at who is most angry at these responses or think he's being hyperbolic, it's a certain group. And I don't know who watched it or who didn't, but Bill O'Reilly was interviewed by Tucker the other day. And Tucker said, well, what's going to happen here? Is Trump going to be elected from prison, or what would happen if he is elected? And Bill O'Reilly just kind of still, even now, just dismissed the idea that Donald Trump could be convicted or would be convicted and sent to prison. Oh, worst case scenario is going to be in house arrest in the White House. And I just feel like this is a real big generational divide on this, that there are still some older people who haven't seen it. But again, in the primary, and I can say this from polling the primary, Trump's big lead really started to happen when older voters couldn't believe that he really was indicted. They didn't think it would happen.
I want to highlight just real quick this article. This is from The Wrap from July 1st, 2020. Dilbert creator Scott Adams says Republicans will be hunted if Biden wins election. There's a good chance you will be dead within the year, Adams says. Definitely hyperbolic, okay? No, within the year, you are not dead. Only Aaron Danielson was a few months later. So my point here is, and I'm being somewhat of a dick when I say that, is that he was actually fairly correct despite being hyperbolic. Scott Adams said, you'll be hunted. And then a few months later, they just walked up to this dude and shot him for being a Trump supporter. Nothing, just put two in his chest. We've not seen that repeated on a great scale. So consider that, right? And also consider, would you have heard this news were it not for the internet? So I want to make sure people understand that bad things happen, and you need to balance is this a one-off of Portland being a crazy bleeding Kansas type state? Or is it really as bad? Well, look, Scott Adams says there's a good chance he'll be dead within the year. Okay, dude. Yeah, it's been 3 years since Biden got elected. We're all here. We're all still working. So I'll say something similar to Mike Cernovich. I do think alarm is warranted, but perhaps a bit aggressive, gentlemen. Perhaps a bit aggressive, right?
Yeah, for sure. The way he phrased it too, like I don't have the tweet in front of me anymore, but saying you are going to, like, talking to me, saying we are, like, don't pull me into your little muck there, Mike. I get what you're saying, but I'm not part of your group there.
No, but they go after you first.
It doesn't.
Yeah, don't try and scare me into making a point and get me to follow you. It's junk.
It's. I think that the point really is because of the way that the left has framed the quote unquote sides. Anyone that's not on their team is somehow on the other team. It's the basket of deplorables comment that Clinton made. If you do not fall in line and if you have the wrong politics, and that doesn't mean Trump's politics, that means not their politics, then you are on the outside and you are just as liable to be thrown into the group of the bad guys as anyone else is. It doesn't matter if you're a MAGA person or you're like one of the free staters up in New Hampshire that are libertarians or whatever. If you're not on board with their project, then you have the wrong politics. There is the thing about political correctness is there is the correct politics, and that means everything else that is not that is incorrect. So it doesn't matter what your politics are. All that matters is your politics are not theirs. So you don't get to walk away from it.
In a revolutionary period, a communist revolutionary period, it is not the revolutionaries who are killed first. That's after the revolution, they begin purging revolutionaries. So in terms of if we are undergoing something akin to what Cernovich and Scott Adams have described, so to understand the context, using this room as an example, Ian, you are their first target. You are a collaborator, and you are you have less defenses. So when it comes to a Robespierre type period, they're going to be looking for people who they view as collaborators who don't have the means to defend themselves. Look at it this way: Spanish Civil War style. You've got people who are living in the neighborhood where there's a conflict between the nationalists, like the Republicans and the communists or whatever the factions were, fascist Republicans, call them whatever you want. And so can they go into the territory that is militarized and fortified by their political opposition? No, they can't. But what about the collaborator who lives down the street? So that's, I'm not saying you literally, I'm saying in the context of what this is, you've got there will be someone who is known to have spoken out and said, you guys are wrong, this revolution shouldn't happen. I'm friends with those guys. In the revolutionary period, those are the people that get gulagged and purged. The people like, in this instance, me or Phil, are the ones in the fortified areas they can't get to. I'm speaking figuratively, not literally. So in terms of, can the government come and start arresting people and charging? Well, they are. And there's a reason why when it came to January 6th, there are certain high profile people who are targeted.
Yeah.
Certain high profile people who are not targeted, and most of the people who were targeted were low profile and no one even knows their names. If the federal government were to indict Alex Jones, hey, hold on. They indicted Owen Schroyer, despite the fact they were both part of the same event, because Alex Jones would create too big of a backlash. And they know, hey, if we drop a boulder in this lake, it's going to wake everybody up. Owen Schroyer, we can mess with, and it will be, a moderately sized rock that will cause a splash. Not too bad. But all these little pebbles, we can strip them all out with no opposition. After they strip away the pebbles, then they can go for the boulders. So when you say stuff to like Scott Adams, you're like, don't say that. Don't put me in your group.
No, say it to Mike Cernovich.
Well, right, either, right. And my point is this.
But he didn't do that to me overtly. I'm just saying. If I had
my point is,
that tweet right in my face.
Their tweets are definitely, in my opinion, a bit over the top, for sure. I think they're describing something genuine, but very alarmist in how they do it. And it's funny because everyone says that about me when I describe civil war. And here I am saying, guys, it's been 3 years since Biden got elected. We're still alive, okay? There are a few people who have died. In a revolution, they're going for collaborators and people who are unaligned and refuse to stand behind a line because you lack defense. So it is not literally you. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying it's going to be the dude who's at work and being like, look, man, I'm keeping my head down. Yeah, they're going to be like, look, bro, we've seen your Facebook. Okay. The group of Trump supporters over there, they've fortified themselves. They have a parallel economy. You're fired. So again, I'm clarifying. I mean this all figuratively. What I think will end up happening is there's going to be a dude working at a factory and they're going to be all going Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. And all these conservative Trump supporters are building a parallel economy, forming companies, forming jobs, downloading apps like Public Square so that they can keep working and working in the film industry, in the music industry. And then these guys who are working at these companies where they're just like, look, if I just don't say anything, now the boss is going to come and they're going to be like, so you went into a meeting yesterday with Janet by yourself? It's like, yeah, she was asking me about the TPS reports. I'm like, yeah, you're being accused of sexual assault. So we're going to have to escort you out of the building and things like that. So that is to say quite literally, you work at Timcast, you're fine. I'm saying these people who think that they're going to say nothing and I'm not involved with you. Don't rope me with you. If I stay away from these guys, I'll be safe. No, you're the first ones to get fired. First ones to lose your job. You're the collaborators. You're the opposition.
I'm listening to you say this and give these examples though, and maybe it's not widespread. It's not yet. But I'm thinking about after January 6th, I got these military documents, and what they were saying was we're going to start to look through people in your company. We're going to start to look through their Facebooks and their social posts, and if they liked something from these groups, then obviously they were going to do something, discipline them or something like that. That's within the military. It wasn't widespread yet in the populace, but guess who was in there? The Proud Boys,
those groups.
I want to.
So I don't know what happened to those people, but they had it there. It was the Marine Corps, by the way. I published them on Twitter.
I want to jump to this next tweet from Mike Cernovich. So fresh segment. Let me just, for those who are just tuning in, Cernovich has a series of tweets that are similar in essence to what Scott Adams had said in the last election, that he believes, Cernovich believes he'll be hunted down and killed in 2020 after 2024 if we lose. He says, if you're conservative with a large platform, have you talked to your family about how you're going to be framed for a crime? He quote tweeted this. He says 2024 is life or death, and he quote tweeted saying, John Eastman facing disbarment for a legal memo on an open constitutional law issue. Trump, judge said Mar-a-Lago only worth $18 million. Michigan, elderly Republicans indicted. Georgia, fake RICO case. SCOTUS is the only stopgap. Once that's gone, there's no law. I'm not even convinced SCOTUS is, because when it came to Texas v. Pennsylvania in 2020, SCOTUS said we are too cowardly to answer a question of original jurisdiction, which is insane. They have to, and they didn't. I believe Thomas and Alito are correct. I highlight this to make the point. While Cernovich and Scott Adams saying it's life or death may have been hyperbolic then, maybe now. Cernovich says it's not hyperbolic, and these are all goober conservatives who don't think so. He does point out something very important in this tweet. Michigan, elderly Republicans were indicted. It is not going to be execute Order 66, as I stated in the previous segment. It is going to be you committed fraud. That's right. Yeah, we think you committed fraud. So you're under arrest. Elderly Republicans were electors, were asked to sign documents in the event lawsuits were won. They would require these documents. It is a normal constitutional procedure. Michigan indicted them, and they are facing the rest of their lives in prison over doing what they are constitutionally requested to do.
They'll use the IRS.
Oh, hands down. Obama already did it.
Yeah.
Obama went after what Tea Party groups?
Tea Party groups.
That's right.
Yep.
So it's crazy to me that people are like, Cernovich is out of his mind. Okay, again, like, I don't know about you just being dead right away, but 10 years ago, Obama used the IRS to target his political opponents.
Now look where we are.
Now look where we are. They're arresting lawyers. They're arresting lawyers. A judge in New York on summary judgment banged a gavel and said the Trump organization is to be dissolved, and then sanctioned the lawyers for arguing. The system already is fractured and busted up.
Yeah, we see it. Like we were talking earlier about in 1992 with we talked about Rodney King earlier in the week, but like just the chaos and the things that have happened that didn't get televised. But now like any guy can tweet out 8 things that have happened. Aaron Danielson, we talked about a million times, like that probably wouldn't even have got national media attention, or maybe it would have, but likely may not have gotten national media attention. So
I agree, yeah.
This could be an example of just taking these things and blowing them out of proportion. But I think the Trump indictments are just beyond the pale. Like that is...
It's history.
Yeah.
It is one of the most egregious violations of this country's values, laws, norms, rules, the Constitution, and it is one of the most, if not the most significant thing that has happened to this country since its founding. Right? You can talk about the Civil War, and then I would say, okay, perhaps we can have a conversation about the Civil War, that when Abraham Lincoln was trying to, he tried to, I don't think he did actually indict a sitting Supreme Court justice, but this was secession and then conflict. So right now, this could be on par with these moves that led to 1865.
It's like we're in a different country, and literally like same name, but because like someone in Tacoma, Washington will be online talking to their best friend in England, and they don't have any friends in Tacoma because they're online. So it's like a different world, a different reality, this country now.
1861, I should have said.
It's like we're a different country. That's the difference between this country and other countries, or has been, that we don't beat each other, political opposition, in the juror box. We beat them in the ballot box. That's really, something that one of the only things that really does or did separate us. That's not happening now. That's the real difference and the major shift. And people ask me how is this going to impact the election. I think it's just a matter of it's a fight between wills. It's a matter of resolve, and you're going to get hit with something new every day. They want to remove them from the ballot here, and you just brought up the Civil War. The last time Democrats removed a candidate from the ballot was Abraham Lincoln in 1860. That's it. It's really the only time I can even recall it being done.
They removed him from the ballot in southern states.
They removed him from the ballot, and here's the funny thing: what they're trying or want to do now is remove Trump from the ballot in blue states that he would otherwise have very little prayer in winning anyway. That's what happened to Lincoln, and he still won.
But
there are 4 candidates that time too.
That's right. The vote was split.
Similarities are sick, man. Really.
What if it's Cornel West,
parallels?
RFK, Biden, Trump, giving Trump 37, 38%, but enough to win.
Yeah.
And then they take his name off the ballot in blue states.
6 states. Right.
This is crazy.
Because there could be, and that's why you saw it in Colorado, in a situation like 16, when we had disaffected voters going to, Gary Johnson, Jill Stein. Colorado got close there, Tim. Got way closer than it should have been. So did New Mexico.
What people need to understand is that Strauss-Howe generational theory is not this profound discovery. It's just the writer's cycle for Earth. Simulation, seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Season 1, the American Revolution. Season 2, the Civil War. Season 3, World War. World at War. Woo! They had to spice things up. It wasn't just enough for America to be fighting. And so now we're going for, how about...
Interdimensional.
No, Civil War and World War III
Space
at the
aliens.
same time. And then aliens come. All at the same time.
Every time something crazy new happens, that is like we passed this Rubicon, we crossed this line. It does seem to be aliens. Something
they've
comes
got,
after
like,
that.
yeah,
I think
Mexico.
they're trying it, but the water's too hot. They keep pulling their toe out. It's just people don't buy it. But it used to be, and you were kind of, maybe you were alluding to this, but I was thinking about it while you were talking, that you'd get the presidential vote, whether you hated the guy or liked the guy, you'd vote. It didn't really matter. Like, yeah, your commander's the commander, but Congress runs the show. It doesn't really matter. And so, like, let's all enjoy life as Americans. That's what we get to do together.
I'm sure you know about voter turnout in the early days of this country, right? What the voter turnout percentages were?
I mean, I don't have them off the top of my head.
Like
they were
10%?
Yeah, they were abysmal until Jacksonian democracy, which started to ramp it up.
And then, which reached around
also
like
has
20 some odd percent.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because then when women's suffrage happened, it basically doubled. So women started voting.
What did Jackson do that enticed voters?
One man, one vote. You have no representation. And then there's actually a lot of parallels to Trump as well. And Trump loves Jackson. He won too early, like Trump, which I think you could argue. Trump came in, and I remember in 2016 saying to people, the election of one man, a revolution, does not make here. There are still a bunch of cheese Republicans in the Senate, in the House. This is not going to go how a lot of people think it's going to go. That happened to Jackson, and the establishment status quo came at him, and he had to regroup. And this is something Donald Trump still hasn't. At least not yet. I have not seen him learn. He should just run with his own slate of candidates. Look at what is going on right now with this debt fight, with the CR, the continuing resolution. He wants them to defund the political lawfare. That's just not going to happen with the current bunch of cowards. I mean, that are in Congress. It's not going to happen. We know who these people are. We know the talent that's in these same districts. Go after them. Trump should be running the America First ticket, not the Republican ticket.
Right.
He should be running the America First ticket. And if you're for me, in Texas 12, you vote for John O'Shea. If you're for me, you vote for Matt Gaetz in Florida 1. If you're for me, that benefited a lot of bad people in 2016. Trump always gave more than he got from the traditional GOP coalition, and he drug a bunch of losers over the finish line who would then stick a knife right in his back. So this is something he's got. I know he's, the guy's busy with lawfare. He's trying to run for president. You're going to repeat 2016 and 17 all over again if you don't do this.
So, like where Lindsey Graham, he said, everybody vote for Lindsey Graham, and then they did, and he won. And then
big mistake.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he should. You're saying he should specifically, like, should he denounce certain people that he has?
No, because you don't want to make enemies yet. Like, there's nothing you can do about Lindsey Graham, and plus, you want to win South Carolina. You don't want to lose. There's upcountry, super conservative South Carolina, and then there's Horry County, and other places around Charleston. You don't want to lose that, so you don't pick fights with people you can't remove. But they're their allies, and congressmen are up every 2 years. We know who the senators are, and one I just mentioned, Texas 12. This is a woman who is the Appropriations Committee. So this is relevant to right now. I think Matt Gaetz was just on your show
a couple days
making a deal about this. Kay Granger made a deal with Trump. She had Chris Putnam on her butt, and Putnam was in the lead. And she said, I need the president's help for his endorsement. He said, I need your help on impeachment. He gave her the endorsement. She defeated Chris Putnam. When he needed her support in the impeachment hearing and the vote, she went home, pretended she was sick, and refused to vote by proxy. I mean, this is the kind of spineless, and it's not even spineless. In that case, it's just backstabbing. It's treachery, and you're not going to affect meaningful change with that kind of treachery. If I told people that there are maybe 3 to 5 tops, and I think I'm being generous at 5, solid Republicans in the U.S. Senate, out of all of them, I wonder how many would be surprised. Matt Gaetz had to fight tooth and nail to defeat that spending bill for Ukraine. Finally, that was a big turning point. 119 Republicans voted against it. I think 100 and something voted for it. But against had more than not. That's a big deal because that doesn't happen. The House Republican Conference is probably 85 to 90% coward. I may even be being generous with that. They're not really what they claim to be. John Duarte out in California 13 ran on border security. I'm super Trumpy. And by the way, I need migrant workers, so I want to keep the border open. He voted against the trans bill the other day. I mean, these people say one thing, completely do another when they get in there, and this is a uniquely Republican problem. You will not see this on the Democratic side. When was the last time, Tim, you saw a Democrat promise something, right? That's a liberal, I don't want to say liberal orthodoxy, and then get to Congress and stab their voters in the back.
AOC did it.
With what?
Famously with Israel.
Oh, well,
right away.
Yeah, no,
and then they were all the progressives were like, whoa, she's taking the establishment deadline now, and
yeah, I mean, unlike that's peripheral compared to like trade or immigration is for Republicans, So seriously, I just
don't think their words are worth anything.
Yeah, they should be
Republicans. They're not.
Putting their actions
none of
in
them.
smart
I don't care if they're
contracts.
Democrats or Republicans. There's like 7 Republicans where I'm kind of like, maybe.
Like if they were like, I'll endorse you, but then you'll vote for me on that, and they need to put it in writing, or they need to put it into a smart contract so it triggers automatically. They don't get to rescind their agreement. But would that be like, that's tit for tat?
There's never going to
Todd Zwicky, they used to had great research on this. Like the whole system relies on that kind of a trust. It is a status quo. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. But when it's like complete betrayal, then the whole thing's just.
There's no benefit for them to sign something like a smart contract that automatically executes, because the possibility of changing is what gives them leverage to leverage one side against the other. So they'll go ahead and they'll say, yes, I promise to do this. But then they'll go and talk behind closed doors to the people that'll give them donations or whatever and say, well, we'll do this and blah, blah, blah. That's what Hillary Clinton came out and said that when she said you have your public position and then your private position. She specifically articulated it just like that. You have a public position and then you have a private position. The duplicity is part of the system. It's part and parcel of the system. It's what they use to get one side to play against the other. So the idea that they would ever agree to smart contracts where they say, yes, I'm going to do this, and then when it happens, it triggers and et cetera, it won't happen, because then they don't have the ability to basically the ability to lie. It's just like when you say, oh, we should get term limits for people in Congress and et cetera, et cetera. They're never going to vote for that.
Let me talk about politics of scale. So people can understand why politicians literally don't care about you, why Hillary Clinton never cared about gay marriage, but claimed to support it and then privately said she was opposed to it because it doesn't matter to her. The people who are running the country are simply thinking about, how do I maintain maximum power? And they view themselves as the American people are, it's like an ant farm or a chicken coop. I like using the chicken coop analogy. They need more eggs to have an egg fight with people in China, and they don't care that much about the chickens. I mean, they don't want the chickens to die, but when a chicken dies, they're like, well, I'll just get another one, right?
Whatever. So
let me explain something about it so everyone can understand. I can explain it in the best way that I can relative to my business. When you start a show or a coffee shop or anything, and your business is directly associated with a small community, maybe you make bagels and you sell them to the public. You know that you have about 1,000 regular customers, and then you have maybe like 2,000 people who come and go that you'll never see before on average. They'll visit your shop one time, never come back. 3,000 people. You know why Jim didn't show up today. Oh, he comes in every morning, gets an orange juice, and he gets a bagel with cream cheese, and then one day doesn't show up, and you're like, wonder where he is. Next day he shows up, and he's like, I had something happen with the dog. A special circumstance occurred. As your business gets bigger, you start to notice that the weather has profound impacts. Whereas some things probably don't matter to the individual partaking them, it has a tremendous impact in the back end of a larger scale business. That is to say, to what degree does winter, does summer, and does rain affect a YouTube channel? Now, most people who are fans of the show watch the show all the time, but one person will simply say, you know what? It's really nice this Friday night. I'm going to go out and hang out with my friends. I'll catch Timcast IRL later. But guess what? This is replicated by 3 to 7% of our viewer base. I cannot address the single individual who doesn't show up for whatever reason. And most people probably think this one person not showing up doesn't matter. But in the back end, when you have a scale of 1 million plus viewers, you actually can see insane trends. So this actually plays to what AI tracks as well when it comes to health and fitness, and like your like when they're looking at blood, like your blood oxygenation, and they can find cancer. We actually see crazy things in our data that you wouldn't notice unless you have millions of viewers. And then you're like, nothing you can do about it. It's hard to get super, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. But the general idea is we can see weather patterns in viewership, and then I can correlate, oh, viewership was down in this region. I bet it was sunny out and 65 degrees. And then sure enough, we can see, that's right, in Southern California, it was a beautiful day. No, that's obvious. What's that? Viewership was really high today. I bet it rained. And then we check, yep, rained, more people watch. So when you're in government, relate these things. You are thinking about, we want more oil means more money means more power means we control more regions. They are not thinking about you as a human being and your child. So when it comes to issues of like, why do they want to sterilize kids? Why do they want to abort kids? Because they don't care about you as an individual. Your life is meaningless. They're looking for a 7% return on their investment. Nothing else matters. They're looking at their chicken coop and saying, this new feed is going to kill off 20% of the chickens, but they're going to lay twice as many eggs. So we're actually getting more eggs because 20% less chickens means 20% less eggs. But for the chickens that survive, we're getting 2 times the eggs. So this is even better. They don't care about you. This is how government at scale works. They will sacrifice you. Your individual pattern of behaviors is meaningless to them, and they will just simply maximize economic output to the detriment of large swaths of the population. That being said, fair point, man. When Matt Gaetz was here, he said something very important that I hope people understand. We were all laughing and cheering for a government shutdown. We, as fans of Matt Gaetz and his work in Congress, not constituents in Florida, but fans of the work he does, I was like, this is fantastic. Here's a guy who's sticking it to the government. It's going to cause a shutdown. Guess what? I don't care if the government shuts down. Doesn't hurt me. Guess what? Disabled veterans, very scared. So when you're Matt Gaetz and you know you have to stop this omnibus spending trash, but it could mean a government shutdown. And then comes a knock on your door and there is a disabled veteran and he says, please don't take my paycheck from me. I have given everything. What more must I give?
And he's got him there.
And then Matt has to say, my friend, I understand and I'm sorry. We have to do this. But as a politician, the confrontations that you'll experience, the circumstances are going to be, do the right thing, but no matter what you do, you're going to piss somebody off. And do we, as people who want to solve the problem of omnibus spending, want to sacrifice the well-being of our disabled veterans to get there? That's a very difficult question, isn't it? So you'll end up with politicians, most of them don't care at all. They're simply asking themselves, how many disabled veterans are going to lose their money and how will that affect my numbers come November? That's what they're thinking.
Because November's in the short term.
Right.
Right. So Matt Gaetz, and bless him for it, he's thinking, guess what? You're not going to have a check at all when this debt bomb blows.
Right.
And guaranteed, all of these dirtbags are going to be pretending they were right up shoulder to shoulder fighting with Matt Gaetz when that happens. I mean, if we could fast forward, guys, if something doesn't change and we could fast forward, I don't know how long it's going to be. Nobody does. But we could fast forward to the future when we have to really be held accountable for this recklessness. You're gonna hear members of Congress go, Matt Gaetz and I were fighting against this. Totally. Yep. Everybody. Even Democrats. If it wasn't for the Republicans trying to give tax cuts to the wealthy, we would have had this under control. And that's the tragic part about it, because we can we grow our way out of this problem anymore? Maybe under Trump, when we were seeing a period, revenue was coming in from the Tax Cuts and Job Act, and it was starting to rise because we were in that Goldilocks zone of corporate tax rates. And then we were growing at 3% or more. If COVID didn't hit, that was our window. The window's closed.
We need a new fuel source now. Oil's too expensive and heavy. We need hydrogen fuel. If we can transform our economy into a new form of productivity, because money is not what it's about. It's about productivity. What are we creating? What is the value of the things we are creating? Yeah. So if we can create cheap fuel And I think graphene is a building material. You get the graphene is the byproduct of the hydrogen formation. You actually make $4.50 for every kilogram of hydrogen you produce with new technology.
I got to stop you right there. You're wrong. I'm sorry.
Ooh, tell me why.
You're wrong. We need cold fusion.
I'm open to that.
It's not. My real point is that you're actually correct. I'm just being pedantic. I'm saying that beyond just hydrogen, the nuclear energy right now is a very, very important source of energy for us. And this is all obviously like we as chickens in the chicken coop. I'm just assuming that the information we've collected and gathered and being disseminated is correct, but they lie to us all the time, so it's hard to know. But they oppose nuclear energy despite the fact that it's carbon neutral and it has a massive, I believe it's the highest energy return on energy invested. That means for every calorie of energy that goes in, you get, I can't remember what it was. I watched a documentary about it. It was like 50 energy out from nuclear, whereas like oil is 30 and like solar is like 0.7. For every calorie of energy going into solar, you actually get less output. Granted, it's improved dramatically. The thing about solar is more so decentralizing the grid in the event of a military strike, cyber attack, or otherwise, and also creating...
Diversifying.
It's diversifying, but also...
That's why I use it too.
The reason we got solar is not because we're going to be good stewards of the earth. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think it's if the power goes out, we're good. Right? So nuclear energy is the first step. You're right about hydrogen, but we should start with nuclear power plants.
You think so? I like hydrogen because it's individuals can use it in their carry it around with them and put it in their car. If we can make hydrogen gasoline hybrid engines,
but for now, the infrastructure for nuclear exists, and then we need to start expanding the infrastructure for hydrogen and for other materials.
Yeah. Ultimately, the point, and I want to drill this into every politician's head, every businessman's head. The answer to our economy, the solution to our economy, is not in the it's not in the money. It's in the productivity of devices and technologies. So
and that's another tragedy of the post-COVID economy. And you know, I don't care what your party is, Joe Biden winning, we started again to move away from that. And under Trump, we went back to good goods producing. Productivity was obviously increasing. You can kind of get away too with having it. And I don't want to encourage debt, but if you make things the world needs and you are the leader of that, you get grace period. If your entire economy, which is, your strength is based on the petrodollar and you're not making enough, it's too expensive, your debt's ridiculous, then that puts you in a bad way. We may buy ourselves some time being something that somebody needs.
This is honestly, I think the more reasonable, the more likely reason that the U.S. and Israel teamed up on Stuxnet to blow up the Iranian centrifuges was not because they were making nuclear weapons. It's because the West knew they were trying to make nuclear power and create an economy that wasn't functioning off of oil.
I'll buy that for $1. I really will.
Right. And then the U.S. was like, the petrodollar is law. Don't make nuclear energy.
Yeah.
But they needed an excuse for why they were attacking a foreign country. And it was, they're building nuclear weapons. Sure. Let's jump to this story. We got some big news. This is from Timcast.com. Woman who burned down Wyoming abortion clinic sentenced to 5 years in prison. Laura Roxanne Green was given the minimum possible sentence for the arson. Laura Roxanne Green, 22, a 22-year-old, this is Gen Z, received the minimum possible sentence for the 2022 arson at Wellspring Health Access in Casper. I'm sorry, man. Look, please. We don't do things like this. You should not do things like this. We are trying to avoid this. We're trying to win through the process by which the founding fathers helped enshrine. I understand a lot of people are like, the founding fathers fought and did a lot of stuff. It's like, dude, they also fought to create a system where we could, with the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, solve these problems without having to.
That was the whole point, Tim.
Right.
That was the whole point. They did not want to fight again.
They didn't want to fight in the first place. And quite literally, the fighting was because they weren't being represented. We now have a crumbling, fractured system, but still an opportunity. It is not impossible. So please, this woman should not have done this. But I bring the story up because I have warned about this. We've seen it before, the attacks on abortion clinics. And we've had the conversation on this show that when you start seeing states say abortion to the point of birth, and other states say no abortion at all, Oklahoma and Colorado, sharing a border, this is an inevitability. Now, again, people should not be doing this, okay? It needs to be handled by a law enforcement arbiter to shut these things down through the vote, and that's what you're getting in the states that are passing the laws, and they're doing it by the book. Let the left overreact and let the law take care of it, because that's the process by which we have agreed we can get these things done. However, it pains me to say, man, I hate to say I told you so. And I think we're going to see worse than this. First of all, she's getting the minimum 5 years in prison for burning down an abortion clinic.
Did she actually burn it down? Did it burn all the way down?
Well, I mean, I would assume if Cassandra wrote it, it burnt down.
Did people get hurt?
But
she'd get murder charges.
Snuck
if
inside
people got
port.
hurt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was hurt because that would change the sentencing guidelines altogether.
Yeah.
So yeah, burning down is a direct statement that means it would totally destroy the building, but I'm not entirely sure.
Burn it into obscurity, into unrecognizability. Well, would she have
down.
a gas canister or
She
something?
poured
in that picture?
gasoline in this building.
That's
So,
bad news.
of course, this will also be weaponized by the establishment, by the Democrats in government.
Absolutely.
They'll use this as a tool. They're going to run these commercials in 2024 as why you have to vote for us. They're going to say far-right extremists are doing this, that, or otherwise. My point is not to bring that up. My point is simply to say people are on edge and this stuff is happening.
But there is a better way to deal with this issue. There are very, very strong opinions on both sides, but Republicans are not handling this issue well at all. They're not, and they create. Every once in a while there needs to be a release valve in society and public policy if something's not going your way. Unfortunately, can lead to stuff like this. Republicans know where they have the country on abortion, and yet they just continuously overreach.
I also want to make sure,
Constantly.
because this is not just about Democrats, it's the story here from the Post-Millennial. Leader in Richmond Democrat Party group arrested after posting bomb threat against Andy Ngo in Virginia Talk. There's a big difference between threatening someone and then actually sneaking into a building and setting it on fire. So I want to make sure that's clear. My point for this segment is not to accuse one side of being worse than the other. These are two anecdotes, two extreme instances, but it's worrisome to see these kinds of things happen. There's already heightened political tensions, and now we have, bro. These are young people, and they are just
Ruining their lives.
they've lost their minds.
After the
firebomb lawyers in New York.
Mental illness is a big problem, Tim.
After the summer of 2020, I'll accuse one side of being worse than the other side.
No. I agree with that. No, I'm saying right now with these two articles.
Okay.
I'm not here to be like, aha, but look what the left did. No, obviously a threat is not as bad as actually burning a building down. I'm highlighting these things to say there is conflict in this country, and people say things like we're not in a civil war, and it's like civil strife. Stephen Marsh describes it as civil strife. It's the period before Civil War. It's like bleeding Kansas. Perhaps that's where we're at. I think Portland is absolutely in a bleeding Kansas state where businesses are fleeing, flash mobs are destroying everything. Like people are living in fear as crime runs rampant and far-left extremists are getting away with whatever they want. Just real quick, Antifa was marching down through the streets with rifles, stopping traffic and controlling vehicles in Portland and in Seattle with Chaz Chop. Like it's happened all over.
You were saying, Rich, about mental health. I fully agree. Mental health is such a problem right now, and the degraded health of the country, the minds of the people. But and earlier we were talking about utilitarianism and how you have to decide as a government, well, how many chickens have to die in order for how many eggs to be laid? Okay. You cannot quantify mental health utilitarianly. It cannot be done. And the government attempting to figure out what's wrong with individuals by making blanket medications is not working. It has not worked. Gun violence has not gone down.
I could not more strongly disagree that the government should be in a position to decide, how many chickens, especially when the chickens are an analogy for human beings. The government is in no position to decide what humans should and should not live. I mean, this goes back to the argument that Tim was having with Sargon the other day about the death penalty and whether or not it's legitimate or not. And that, your opinion on that aside, the government is a result of the consent of the people. The government does not have the right to make decisions about the people. The people make decisions for the government, and this is a fundamental principle of a free society. The government's legitimacy comes from the consent of the governed, and the government does not exist to inform the people how they should think, what they should believe, or how they should organize their lives. Period.
But the problem, and maybe you're right that's ideal, but is that people will have faith in a government to govern people they don't know and that they'll never meet, and they'll send their tax money to that organization.
I was just going to say
and that government has to make decisions about where's the food going to go this month, who's going to get it, who's not going to get it. So that's what I mean by who's going to live, who's going to die.
Yeah, they shouldn't be made. That's what a market is for. That's why we have. That's why the government shouldn't be involved in markets.
But then you get a individual business leader deciding, like Vanderbilt, who shut off the trains to New York City.
No, look at all the. I mean, right now you're talking about who's going to get food and stuff. Grocery stores are all over the country. People can decide where to go on their own, and we don't need the government to tell us how to live our lives.
But back before 1860, Vanderbilt, he owned all the trains in the country. Basically, he ran the country. Arguably, he's the man who built America, Vanderbilt. And he decided one day he didn't like the way they were treating him, so he cut off access to New York City. He's like, no, you're not getting trains in New York City anymore.
Nice.
Until you meet my demands. And you realize how dangerous it is to let the private sector run.
I completely disagree. Totally disagree with your perspective. And it is only, and if you empower the government to do those things, then you are empowering the government to decide who lives and who dies, who eats and who does not eat. And any government in history that has had that power has abused it, and it turns into piles and piles and piles of dead human beings.
Let me just, because you haven't gone so far as to really argue the point of a modern Democrat, but what you guys are arguing is a modern Democrat would say, but the government is the people. And you hear AOC actually say this all the time. But
absolutely not.
And I agree with you, right? And I would say, in response to what you're talking about, because I get it, the Gilded Era, I get it. I would rather deal with the Guild than a government. That's just the way that's where I'm at. The government has unlimited power to coerce you, to hurt you, there's never going to be a guy who's so rich he's going to be more powerful than the Central Intelligence Agency or the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I mean, well, not in this society. Maybe
King
not in a true
Saudi Arabia
market
or something.
But they're not a true market. If we stuck, to our original, if we stuck to our original design, I don't know why they named it this now, but as I did work on this for a book, they called it virtue capitalism. Like somewhere along the lines, we need to re-emphasize some virtues that are about capitalism. And to me, and it's like, have you read Max Weber, The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism? Mm-hmm. That's not capitalism. So the pursuit of greed for greed's sake has been around since antiquity.
Yeah,
and
communism too.
That's exactly right. It's everywhere. It has nothing to do. Thing. All right. So when you hear AOC make those points, it's like, well, that's not what capitalism is at its core. Exactly. And again, I'd rather deal with a greedy fat cat, who's got competition with monopoly laws, anti-monopoly laws, things like that, than a government. Because somewhere along the line, Democrats started to believe what he was arguing against.
But you need the government to enforce the monopoly laws.
That's true. But we're not talking about to the point of that. That's different. You have a justice system for that. That's within reason. We're not talking about the ability to chop up parts of society.
I don't believe the United States could be communist. That's why one of the reasons I think we're winning. I think we can see communist influence, but the backlash that we're seeing in response to a lot of this stuff is the natural reaction.
I don't know about never, but not now.
I think never.
You think never? Never say never.
I mean, well, like let's be realistic. Nothing's absolute, right? For all we know, like a plague hits, wipes out most of the population, and then a new civilization emerges, calling itself the United States. Yeah, there's a lot of circumstances. I'm saying, based on the current iteration of our government and our culture today, the systems that we have in place, in all likelihood, will not.
Right.
What about fascist? See, that's I never liked when the right always said, Obama's a socialist, he's a fascist.
So
I think we're all fascists. The system's fascist with the Federal Reserve.
If you look at the Soviet Union, if you look at communist China, we may get civil war, but I do not think we would get. A lot of people will say, like, is it a civil war or is it a communist revolution? And we'll interchange. But let me break this down and clarify. When I'm talking to my friend, I was visiting Ukraine, covering some stories there. And the apartment where we stayed used to be Soviet communist block housing. And she explained how the apartment she was in back in the day, the two neighbors hated each other. And so one neighbor called the secret police and said they were speaking bad about the party. The next day, the apartment was cleared out. Everything was gone. That's it. Neighbor taken care of. That might happen in U.S. cities. But I do not believe that if the United States ever went to that degree of authoritarian, it would be ubiquitous outside of cities. For example, when they did all the COVID lockdowns, in most red areas, nobody did anything.
Even when they had those rules, a lot of them didn't.
They don't have the means to enforce it. Yeah. And when people are living successfully out in the middle of nowhere, they're just going to do whatever they want for the most part. And they do. There are parts of West Virginia where it's like, sure, you're supposed to get a permit for that. And then people build whatever they want and everyone just rolls their eyes. Because like, what are you going to do? You're 70 miles from the nearest town. Yeah. This is one of the things that affected West Virginia when it came to this gun bill that the Democrats wanted to do, where it was like you had to go, all gun transfers must be through FFLs. Because some guy pointed out that he's in rural West Virginia with like really crappy internet, and the nearest FFL is like 2 or 3 hours away. If he needs to give a shotgun to his cousin who lives down the road so his cousin can deal with like some raccoon problem or something because of his chickens, he's got to drive 3 hours with his cousin to go fill out paperwork. That's insane. Yeah. And so that stuff does not work. And so there's a lot of things that are federally restricted that are not like, look, I'm not talking about drug deals. I'm talking about there are laws pertaining to gun sales, and there are people who live in the middle of nowhere who they're not going to tell you, but they don't follow any of those laws, and no one knows and no one cares, and it will not be enforced. Mm-hmm. No ATF guy is going to drive out to a trailer 300 miles from the nearest town for a guy who lives on 200, 300 acres of worthless property where he just entertains himself and minds his own business, and then bought a gun from his neighbor for a couple $100 with that private sale. They're not going to drive out there for that. I mean, they might, but for the most part, it's just off the grid and they can't even find it if they wanted to. Yeah. When it comes to the overt communist stuff, there's not enough federal law enforcement to deal with the size of this country. If they tried to be a secret police that were going and erasing people for speaking bad about the party. In cities, no question. In cities, we already watched people in Staten Island get arrested because they were saying, hey, don't bring these non-citizens into our neighborhood. Yeah. If you live in Staten Island, you're a subject, okay? Yeah. You're not a citizen. You're a subject. Yeah. For those of us that don't live in these big cities, well, for the time being, we still have our freedoms and we are not subjects.
Subject only to the U.S. dollar. Well, but kind of.
Not even. I mean, some people are trading with all sorts of things, especially in the middle of nowhere.
That's cool.
But my point is this. I'm not saying they won't try, but they will not be. The amount of force you would need to maintain full-scale authoritarian communist control over a country like this. Yeah. The issue here is people here are just obstinate.
It's hard, but I agree. It would be hard, but both China and the Soviet Union were both massive
thinking
countries.
Long and hard.
So it's not that it's not that that I don't think that you're right about the fact that it would be tough, but I think that what happens is you get violent the government coming down violently with the boot, and then it scares people into compliance.
Right. So the issue is China has a history of dynasties. Mm-hmm. Russia has monarchs. The United States has fractured colonies struggling to agree with each other who are in revolt. First, the people who came to the United States from Europe were people who are willing to die to get away from whatever was going on in their home country. Mm-hmm. Quite literally, like you're in the UK and you're like, this sucks. Can't practice my no freedom of religion. I don't want to be here. Hey, if you get on this boat and ride for 3 months with a 20% chance of dying, you might make it to a barren shore. And they were like, sign me up. Yeah. And I'm like, wow. As an alternative to conflict within your country, escape was an option. They took it. The United States then is bred of people who want to be left alone. And it's like, I would
still is an identity. You're right. Because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, but can't look at how people have changed. Are we still largely
but look at it this way. Take a small cellular culture of angry people who say, don't tread on me, and then put a few drops in a big petri dish and then watch over a month as that whole thing spreads, and you can see it is of the same culture. There's mutations, there's changes. Some other cells have creeped into the petri dish, but it still overwhelmingly is this one type. And it just so happens this cell is resistant to a certain virus. Mm-hmm. That is in our blood as Americans, which is why I would not be surprised if the immigration problem is intentional to destroy us. To bring in as many people as possible who are not of the pioneer don't tread on me ethos, but they're trying to get as many people in this country who are of the ethos of gimme, gimme, gimme. I will take what I want. Then it's very easy to control people when you give them what they want. To quote Fast and the Furious 4, when the villain says, He says, give the people something that they fear losing, and you can control them. Well, there you go.
Well, there's only one reason why Mayorkas would threaten Cubans who are coming 90 miles, on a raft or a boat. He'll threaten to open fire on them, right? But he'll let anybody pour through the southern border from certain countries that he particularly wants.
It is a lot of
even
Venezuelans,
though, too.
Yeah, so Venezuelans and Cubans.
It's hard, though. It's hard to separate Venezuelans, from the rest of the pack.
It is. Cubans on a boat, and a lot of people from Honduras. And the sentiment among most of these migrants is they want a better life. And I get that. The American ethos was also very similar, but the thing about the people who came here is, and there's an overlap, which is why I say I respect the people who are coming here, because they're willing to risk death. For the most part, they're getting funding. There's stories about NGOs paying their bills.
Oh, sure.
This is very, very different.
Big business.
You weren't landing on a barren shore. The colonists were like, we're going to land on a shore. It's going to be hard work. And when the winter comes, you're probably going to die then too. Life is rough. Yeah. The people who are coming here are like, once you get here, you are going to live in luxury compared to where you came from. So there's an inversion as to what the what the drive is. My point ultimately is this nation is born and bred of people who are really angry and want to be left alone to the point where they are willing to die to be left alone, which means, look, man, that the feds raided that fat old dude's house because he was smack talking on the internet and they killed him. That doesn't stop. If the country does go full commie, tanky, whatever, cities will be bad and they will try to enforce things outside of cities. But what I think is more likely to happen is that cities will be barred from leaving. People will,
that's what I think.
They'll have checkpoints around the cities. There's a bunch of sci-fi movies and novels that are like this, where the people who live in the cities, very technologically advanced, very comfortable, but you're not allowed to leave. And the people from outside the cities need special permits to come into the cities and get permission.
There's like a trilogy I'm thinking of right now, because I've thought the same thing, that you're just not going to be able to go. And they'll try to make it as super cushy and comfortable for you, even though it is draconian. What is the name of these trilogies?
They serfed them.
Nuts.
They wouldn't let the serfs leave the land.
But there will be.
My wife's going to kill me for not remembering.
You'll remember.
There will
movies.
be backwater rural folk who are surviving on their own and living just fine. And you go to a city and they're going to stop you and be like, "Do you have your permit? Yeah. Do you have your social ID?"
And there'll be stories. You know what's over that wall?
You see like light shows and stuff.
Like The Line. They're doing this in Saudi Arabia. The Line. That city where they want to build it. That's right.
Dude, I got
Divergent.
But
even though that was an experiment, but I'm saying,
right.
They didn't know.
That's the movie. It's Divergent.
There's Divergent, and then there's like two others. Resurgent. Yeah. So in the first one only applies though, Tim, because you learn later it really is an experiment to try to weed out bad genes. Yeah. Because many years ago, like in our time, they started to, I don't like the color of my eyes. I think I want blue eyes. So I'm going to pluck out my brown or whatever I have, greenish brown. And I'm going to have blue eyes. I'm going to change my DNA. Well, we did it so much, we tainted our DNA. So they made this experiment to try to find what is divergence. But inside the cities, what are they doing to those divergents? Hunting them and killing them. And you can't leave. Because if you leave, first of all, everything outside the wall is scorched. There's no world left. Yeah. It's barren out there.
Don't even look.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And they don't want the bad genetics to get out there because then that'll mix into the population.
That's right.
For all you know, right now, there is an entire galactic federation and human colonies on other planets. And the ships that are flying by are the, you know how we view North Korea?
Yeah.
They're locked in. They're clueless. They believe all this nonsense.
Get me started in this. I'll go on. I'll go on about this.
So these alien ships we're seeing that they're lying to us about,
servers.
It's humans from the other space colonies who are like these poor people living under this despotism who are denied intergalactic technology. I'm kidding, by the way, but you never know.
You never know.
We used to talk about this when I was younger. We're teenagers and my friends were all smoking weed. I didn't smoke, but we'd be like, it's like a question probably every friend group is asked. What if we're North Korea? What if we think we're right, but really we're the ones locked in? And it's like, well, you're only saying that because you don't have a passport. You didn't travel around yet. But but it's a good question, right? How do you know?
Speaking of Cernovich, the other day with the abortion issue, the guy they were talking about going to hell for not being sufficiently pro-life. And speaking of Cernovich, he was just like, "How do you know you're not dead yet? How do you know you're not dead right
Yeah,
now?
that guy's the
guy was
DMT.
like, what are you talking? You see?
Or you're
I'm laughing
seen.
because I thought it was hilarious. I knew it was
for all you know, you could be playing Rich Baris 2,
That's
the
right.
pundit experience, and you're like a
Still rich.
53-year-old.
Black Mirror, baby.
You're a 53-year-old Mexican guy who's at the arcade right now.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that gives me a lot of hope, like almost like at the base of what I am, is I've got this hope because American freedom, the way that we've designed this, is the best form of government on earth. It's not
So
great.
far.
Yeah, so far. And other people in other countries know it and they agree. Like when I talk to kids in China, I used to do a chat roulette back when it was cool. And I just roulette onto some Chinese dude or some girl and we'd talk about it and they'd be like, we're in China. It's crazy in China. You can barely get access to this. And I was like, they all want it. They all like to speak English and like, I don't know, all is hyperbolic, but so many people want this as their government type.
Freedom, dude.
Yeah, it's contagious. It's contagious. And I would say there is a trick, though, the Chinese started to pull on their population. And that is, and I only know this from having Chinese friends that I met, back in college. They were trying to convince them that they were no longer the party of Tiananmen Square. Right?
Yeah.
We're pragmatists
It
now.
evolved.
Yeah, we've evolved
Yeah,
and
I
we're
remember those.
pragmatic and we really want to shift. But still, what did they do to trick them? And that's interesting what you're saying. I'm agreeing with you. They tricked them by saying we're going to make our government more liberal. We're going to open up the markets.
Right.
We want you to have what a lot of people in the West have. And of course, that was all total nonsense. They wanted to exploit the West. And if it made their own population more comfortable, then double win, twofer. But they had convinced them that they were a more moderate party. And this is before... This was, Deng.
This is Deng.
Yeah.
it's Deng
Deng Xiaoping.
Is that when they
Deng
changed it to
Xiaoping.
president? They changed chairman to president. Now they call their leader the president.
No, that was before, even before.
That was before that.
Yeah.
That was before that,
anyways,
yeah.
I don't think that the word that they would use in English matters to the Chinese. They don't
Yeah,
call them.
they don't do
Chairman,
that.
president,
We did
same
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Our press changed that.
Yeah,
Right.
like in Chinese, they are, or whether they're.
Did they actually change the definition of the word they
No.
use?
No.
No.
It's
Nothing
just something
changed.
that's
We
done
did.
in English.
Yeah, so chairman is the proper word, but I guess because communists were taking over, they were like, just call him a president,
Yeah.
because then it sounds democratic.
It's better. Yeah.
Yeah, they want you to look at communism favorably.
Right. They want you to think that he's a president like he's elected, which he technically is,
But I will say, communism would be really, really awesome. It would be the greatest thing ever, as long as I'm in charge. No. I'm not saying it would be good for anybody else.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I'm in charge, I'm going to be living it up.
Yeah, I mean-
I'm going to get morbidly obese. I'm going to wear one of those silly little military uniforms, and everyone has to worship me like a god.
Nice.
That's basically the mentality of communists. Yeah. They're all like, I can't wait till communism wins so that I can be in charge.
Yeah.
So
yeah, dude.
So this is a little side.
You'll be in charge of the rock breaking line in the gulag.
So I don't know if anyone here's heard of it, but there was Khrushchev's midnight speech is where he admitted all of Stalin's atrocities, right? And that was really the beginning of the falling apart of the Soviet Union. As Khrushchev said, look, Stalin did all these terrible things, millions of people died, etc. And in the speech, Khrushchev is talking about how Marx said that you needed to avoid a cult of personality, right? But yet, if you look at all of the socialist countries in almost all of the socialist countries in history, there's always a cult of personality.
Always a
there
strong
was
man.
there was Mao in China.
Yeah.
There was Pol Pot in
Idi Amin
Cambodia.
every single time.
There
Castro.
was Castro.
Every single
There's
time.
Chavez. There's others that are smaller that I can't think of off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but they
that's
always have a cult of personality. The people always focus their attention on one leader.
Right.
And somehow that person embodies what the perfected socialist man of their time is. And it is always as if it is a,
it's a strong man.
well, yeah, but it's more than just it is a strong man, but it's like because it's treated as a religion. The society
That's
in and of
within us,
itself, it treats the ideology as a religion, and so they focus on one person as the pure socialist, the pure
the
person
model,
to follow.
The model.
Yeah.
And it's like a book like the Little Red Book with
Mao's Little
Mao,
Red Book,
for
yeah.
instance. Yeah, it's like a feature of it. I wrote about this in my dissertation.
It's what concerns me
All right, so
about-
real quick though, just because we mentioned those, how many military dictators or right-wing dictators can you name? from various countries.
Augustus Pinochet, was he left wing?
Pinochet, what country?
But he really
Chile.
was. He
What about
really was
Brazil?
left.
I spent time in Chile, that's why I know that.
Was there an actual dictator?
Military dictatorship in Brazil. Who was running it?
I don't know.
Me neither. Spain.
Yeah,
Spain's easy, right?
Yeah,
Spain.
That's
Spanish
Franco, was it?
Franco.
Yeah.
Franco, yeah.
And then there was
James
It was
Franco.
obvious.
Was that right?
Batista.
I gotta ask
Batista
this,
was
though.
Batista was right wing in Cuba before Fidel Castro. Yeah.
Yeah, but I gotta ask this though. What are we really calling right wing? Are we having the
Right,
normal?
That's what I said when you say
Yeah.
when you say
know.
Franco is right wing, it's like that's from a very left wing perspective to call him.
That's
right
right.
wing.
Right.
You know,
But that's why I
so-
said military dictatorships.
Right. That makes it perfect.
Yeah.
Juntas.
Sure. Juntas. Yeah.
Well, one thing I was going to say is I'm concerned about the cult of personality in American politics big time. Like, I don't think that Trump has any communist ambitions, but the cult of personality that was so eminent in communist regimes, I see it in the United States from time to time, the fervence, the willingness to go against what you believe because
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
obsession with politicians in general. She's so famous.
But that's human. But that's the brilliance of our founding fathers. They and even Washington, they wanted to do it to him.
Yeah.
And that's within us. That's
It is.
human nature. And
Because
it's
it's access to resources. It's your desire to live, to be able to have progeny. It's the desire to propagate oneself.
This is part of why I'm so concerned about Obama. Michelle Obama. Because Michelle Obama would inspire that kind of fervent dedication. She's this, she's someone we need to look up to, etc. Now, I'm not saying that she would be a tyrant that would, be like, all right, we got to start killing people as like someone like Mao or whatever. But that kind of adoration. We saw people adore Barack Obama, and it would be the exact same thing with Michelle Obama, probably even more so. People would adore her.
But I will say Obama is cool. Whether you agree with him or not, the truth is, just because I want to give an example. Hillary Clinton had a more than 60% approval rating when she was the Secretary of State. Favorability. People loved her. Then she ran for president. Everyone realized this woman's,
Well, what do you mean?
Can't stand this woman.
She had hot sauce in her purse.
Yeah, I mean, come on. But,
It was funny when she announced that
Michelle would have to hide.
the show she was on, they were like, sounds like you're pandering to black people. And she goes, is it working?
Is it working? Yeah.
It's like,
Gross. So gross.
you think you think she'd have to hide so that she wouldn't go down in
She's a
favorability
nasty
like Hillary
woman.
did?
She would crash. Americans would vomit when they start to get to know her. They tried to do this. I got kids. Nickelodeon. Every Saturday morning watching early morning cartoons with my kids. They had this woman, Kamala Harris, aspire to be Kamala Harris. And I'm sitting there with my little daughter watching, what is that, Miraculous or something. And I'm thinking to myself, and not even thinking to myself, this woman is not who you want to be. Because does anybody really does any father want their little daughter, to grow up and emulate Kamala Harris?
I hope not.
Is that how you want your daughter to behave?
I really hope
No.
not.
So she was supposed to be popular. This is why Democrats are in a pickle right now.
Right.
She was supposed to be popular. Nate
Well,
Silver
listen.
told them she would be popular.
it's because they listened to woke Twitter.
Yes.
And they were like, so if we go for this, first female VP woman of color, we're going to be great. And everyone's like, she is one of the most despicable human beings.
I know.
But you know what?
Crazy.
Tulsi Gabbard
Annihilated her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was like Buffy the Vampire Slayer versus Dracula when she took a stake to the heart of the demon and said, Kamala Harris imprisoned innocent people, arrested them for
Right.
pot, and it's just like, oof. And she used them as slave labor, and it's like, wow.
I thought she was gone after that initial debate, and then she reared her head. Like
Better
out of the Phoenix.
Better analogy is that Kamala Harris was standing at the podium and Tulsi Gabbard took a bucket of water and splashed it on top of her, and then Kamala went.
But then the DNC started banging the drums like bum bum bum, bum, and Kamala came up out of the mug like risen again to be the
But
VP.
just like twisted sludge, and they were like, "We don't have anyone else. What do we do?" It's actually here. Let's roll with it. They took the sludge after Tulsi Gabbard splashed the water, brought it to the lab, and hooked electrodes up to it, and then cranked the lever.
I think we got her.
And they were like,
She's
"It's
back.
all we've got. We have to do this."
All we need is your corporeal form. Do you think that anybody could run the Democratic ticket and be cool?
I'm telling
Wow. No.
we
That'd be
polled
cool,
Gavin
I don't
Newsom, and he was getting creamed. And that's because people
sucks.
don't really know who he is yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like
do.
Ron DeSantis, for instance, is about to raise his profile big time.
Okay, I'll say it like this:
gonna get crushed.
you cannot be a Democrat and be cool, and you cannot be a traditional Republican and be cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like so the only thing that can come close to being cool is probably some form of anti-establishment Trump, and like moderate Trump supporter to a certain degree.
Yeah, because you can't.
Maybe like the closest you'll get to it would be an Ian Crossland.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like
because
Ian.
you can't lie. If you lie, you're not cool in the modern age.
Yeah.
Like if a 19-year-old
sure.
finds out you're lying to them, you're off the island. You're done.
But to be fair, I mean, like Ian is cooler than 99% of the of Congress.
Yeah.
And that's Democrats and Republicans combined. Democrats have no cool factor.
They
at
have
all.
no bench. Yeah, this is a real problem for them. They have no bench. Pete Buttigieg, had some talent in 2020. He did better than people thought he was going to do. I think there's obviously some appeal he had, at least to the left there. But then he ran the transportation department and proved to be a totally incompetent
No,
idiot.
then he got hired and didn't go to work for a year.
Right, that's
and a
what I'm
half.
saying, yeah.
Adopting a baby.
It's a good point.
This is why you can't be a Democrat and be and be cool. The Democrats.
It's true.
Imagine we're all in high school.
They're
The
the
Democrats are the preppy kids.
Yes, exactly.
The Republicans are like somewhat like preppy, but they have a few people who like the bad boy wearing the leather jacket and the blue jeans
Rumblefish.
with the suave blonde hair going forward, sitting in the back being like, she's a fat pig over there. And they laugh.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to win class president, you got to basically get everybody. But the stodgy, nerdy kids who are teacher's pet are not cool. And so amongst themselves, they think they're cool.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, did you see that gem? He got straight A's. And it's like, wow. And then everyone else is like, who cares, man?
he can run so fast.
So you need you need a combination of someone who's talented, reasonable, authentic, and doesn't come off as stodgy. And the Democrats don't have any of that because
They started to with and I sorry to interrupt, but RFK, and then they were just like, no, he's too cool. Get him out of here. Sorry.
I mean, he's still he's the coolest Democrat, but he's not that cool.
Yeah, he's
If you
70s.
watch, that's
Still
why
not.
if you watch Gavin in the spin room after the debates, which I only did, after the fact, you could tell that he's trying to be almost like a left-wing version of Donald Trump. He's trying to create a hate. He wants the right
So
to
bad,
hate
I'm
him.
sure.
So the left is loyal to him. And this is something that I think is a danger with RFK, and people may underestimate the hive mind that Democrats are. If RFK runs against the DNC like this, and he gets pegged, for instance, as someone who is anti-democratic, like he becomes like their enemy, then he won't peel that many off. He has to do it the right way. I think Gavin understands that, and he wants the right to hate him. Because if the
He
right
thinks it'll garner him respect, and people will then, because they hate him, that means I'm good.
Yes,
Let's pause
exactly.
real quick. Let's pause real quick and
go and look at it.
let's define cool.
Oh yeah, he's
good
not
one.
cool.
But
he's
let's define it.
smart.
I'm literally saying let's define exactly what it is we're talking about.
chill.
So cool actually means too many things.
Yeah.
Cool means like a cool as an adjective describing a person could actually mean like cold. It could actually refer to
Cool,
someone
calm, and collected. Yeah, like
Right.
like a razor.
So,
Stoic.
but it does. It's so a combination of how we use cool to describe someone. It's charismatic, confident, attractive, fashionable. You look up to them, and
Healthy.
I think charisma and
big one.
a desire to emulate. Coolness represents
Desire to emulate. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's it.
When
Wanna
someone
be
is
around
cool, that
You're confident, but
you are
not
saying,
arrogant. You know.
when someone is cool, you are saying they behave, act, and have the things that we look up to and desire
ideal.
for ourselves.
Yeah.
Not necessarily have things, but it's a combination of like high social status, I guess.
Yep.
Displaying displaying proper higher social status of some sort.
Yeah, like you want him around.
So you look at it this way: AOC at a party. Okay, whatever. She's not the least cool person, but she's like
Pretty close.
she's nerdy, right? She like Democrats are all stodgy, nerdy, the preppy types. Republicans, 10 times so. But there's a handful of Republicans where you'd be like,
That are cool.
cool-ish. It's because the interesting
Cooler,
thing is with the culture war, cool is actually fractured right now.
Yeah,
So
true.
there's a handful of Republicans who are cool-ish. Like,
JD's cool. It's cool, dude.
JD Vance.
Yeah. He's cool,
I haven't
dude.
met him.
I
yet.
don't know.
In person, he's cool.
Yeah, maybe, but like you're saying cool as in like he's a good guy.
No, I mean like he's like a an average dude.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you
not
know,
cool.
Yeah.
Average is not cool.
No, I don't mean like he's approachable and he
This is-
does have
hold on.
qualities.
This is
that
why
you do
Hassan
emulate.
called
We should have him on the show.
Phil a failed musician. Phil is cool.
No, but I mean, he does have
What are you
qualities
laughing at?
that.
Well, no, but look. What's cool is
Don't worry, man.
five gold records, platinum record, opening for Metallica.
But he doesn't talk about it. That's what's cool.
No, but like
He's chill.
Phil is successful, and
He's in
but
his
like
own lane.
you've done things that everyone wishes they've done.
Yeah.
You do talk about it, but
And
I don't lord it over people, and it doesn't mean that I'm better
But-
than anyone. But
does it mean that
the
Phil is
first
the
time I
coolest
met you,
person in the
haven't done
world?
it.
Well, no, like to
Although I
varying
knew.
degrees, cool. But on average, you would say a rock star is cool.
Yeah.
Democrats don't have rock stars. Republicans don't have rock stars.
No.
Republicans have slightly more than anybody else. That's about it. For some reason, there are things that are cool and things that are not, and it's really weird. You know, like, it's hard to define.
The thing too about the Democrats,
But like,
is,
I think, sorry, just real quick.
Yeah.
To clarify my point, not to single out Phil, rock star is considered to be objectively cool. Successful musician and entertainer is considered to be an objectively
I
cool
would say
thing.
drugs are objectively cool, but they're not anymore with pharmaceuticals.
Right.
So,
No, they used to be.
smoking is objectively cool looking, but it's not cool to do. But you look at someone smoking, and there's always that attitude thing that goes along with it.
But now it's holding the cigarette like this and
yeah, like lighting it and not even smoking it.
and
That's
looking
what's
around like you
cool.
don't care.
Yeah.
There's something about
I don't
being
smoke, bro.
aloof.
Yeah,
aloof. That's
there's an
what I was gonna say.
aloofness to it.
It's like
This is
trying to define cool is a very difficult thing.
Well, but yeah.
But like having almost no fear, no care.
Yes.
You are aggressive. You are assertive. You are confident. You lack worry. People want that in their lives.
That's the point I was trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that the current Democrat, I guess you could say, like the ideal person is very uncool. They're always the person at the party
I'm
that's
struggling.
complaining about something that's good. That's saying, oh, like that's
Oh, dude.
annoying. That's that you're like this. Oh, well, that's problematic because of this. They're like, oh, and that's exactly the opposite of what
Bro.
someone that's cool that doesn't care, that just like aloof, like you said.
It's
not
like
them.
the Democrats. Okay, you're at a house party, and then Trump shows up with a keg,
Yeah,
and it's a high school
That's right.
party.
He is obviously cool.
yeah,
and
exactly.
and he's like, and he's not the football player.
Yeah.
He's
No.
just a big dude. He's overweight. He's kind of funny and snooty, but he brings the keg. And then the Democrats are the ones being like, you're not old enough to drink,
Yes.
dude. We're gonna get in trouble.
Exactly.
Why are you bringing this here?
There
and
is
it's like,
nothing-
dude, you don't have to be here if we're partying, man.
There's nothing less cool than people that are trying to hall monitor you. So
Yes,
people
I know.
the people.
man.
I don't understand why the left isn't rejected by more people
Out of
that
just being
want
not
to
cool.
go just out of hand.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna sit there and be like, "Oh, that guy swore,"
know,
you
that's
shouldn't talk to
literally
him.
what they're doing.
He's got a bad opinion. He said this
Didn't use
terrible
my
thing about
pronouns
them.
correctly.
Literally, it's like the hall monitor
You're onto
is
something.
never effing
So
cool.
funny.
The guy
You're
that
onto
goes and runs to the teacher is never the
They're
cool
the
guy.
authority. They're the
I want
teachers.
to add. They know they have a cool problem, and I'll give two personal examples. One, I'm not saying anyone in this room are the coolest people in the world or that we're more deserving. No, I'm just saying the Democrats definitely have a cool problem.
Yeah.
But I will say, and this is personal, when we did the skate thing in DC, I brought the story up before, but I'll get in more detail. I've put out some skate videos recently. We filmed a few clips. We went skating, and we had Sean Hover, shout out, cool dude, pro skater, and we're skating in the barn. And I'm an old man. I don't skate as crazy as I used to. I did a handful of tricks. They're a little sketchy. He filmed them, and the Barracks posted them. This is the biggest skate brand in the world. They post clips periodically. They posted my clip. They've posted other clips of mine before. And it was because the tricks that I did, a little sketchy, but they were particularly advanced tricks, so I was really excited. I did something called a fakey ghetto bird, and it was kind of sketchy.
Oh, that's
a hard trick.
I don't know that.
And comments are pissed. They're pissed. When I was in DC, I announced like, hey, we're going to go skate in DC. And then these leftists, these super woke people got really, really mad. And this pro skater sent me a link to a forum, a skateboard forum, where people were talking smack about me having been at DC Freedom Plaza skating. And so people were like, he's not a real skateboarder anyway. And one guy said, Tim Pool couldn't even do a pop shove it. He's a poser, blah, blah, blah. And then they all started trying to entertain this lie that I didn't actually skate. Why? Cool factor.
Yep.
These people who are complaining sucked.
Not cool.
They always do.
They
Always
don't have the talent or the merit, and no one wants to film what they do because they're not landing anything good.
Yeah.
I didn't go there and say anything to anybody. I hung out minding my own business, but I was doing 540 big flips. I was doing cancel flips, hard flip, late flips, minding my own business. but probably doing some of the harder tricks at the spot. I've been skating for 24, 25 years. So they go on the internet and lie because they need to maintain Tim Pool doesn't actually do this thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's no. Phil is a failed musician. Hassan says that. Why? Because Hassan doesn't have any
talent.
There's nothing. He's a guy who streams. Hey, more power to him. He's the biggest left-wing streamer. I respect that. There's
Literally,
more,
he's ripped.
Yeah, left
He's
wing.
not ripped. He's just
biggest.
he's just large.
Oh, is he?
But the reason he says that Phil has failed, and it's just like the worst possible timing. A week after opening for Metallica and a few days before getting a 5th gold record, you don't say these things. But it's because they have to make sure that there's no charismatic cultural influence coming from the anti-establishment faction at all. It's the preppy kids being like, trying to keep the cool kids out of school. And it's, you know what? I got a really good example. Watch the Decemberists video for, what is it? 16 Military Wives.
I don't know.
It's not necessarily the most perfect example, but the preppy, the lead singer of the Decemberists, it's a good song, plants a slingshot in the locker of the kid he doesn't like, and then goes to the principal and says, look, he's got a slingshot to get him in trouble.
What a loser.
Like, they're trying to keep the influences that threaten them away.
Yeah.
So if they came out, and I saw this is really funny when Hassan Piker was doing a review of the song we put out, Will of the People, the first song we put out 3 years ago. He was basically like sort of talking smack, and the comments were people being like, no, this is Tim Pool. Oh man, I liked this song. Oh no. It's like,
Oh, come on.
They have to make sure they tell everybody we're lame, we suck, we're not good at anything. Yeah. The view of anybody who votes Republican needs to be a suit-wearing, stodgy guy who is uncool.
He's supposed to be the great unifier too. That really stinks. And you really, I think, really hit on something that Republicans need to pay attention to. They need to be painted as the hall monitors, the speed keepers.
Yeah.
It's like, look,
They're
I'm
the
trying
establishment.
I want to do 75. Okay? Get in the right lane. That's them.
Republicans are substantially okay. So here's what I'll say.
I want to do 80.
95% of the Republicans are substantially less cool than Democrats.
Yeah.
But there's only because there's a handful of Democrats that could moderately claim they're somewhat cool. However, there are a few Republicans who are substantially cooler than all of the Democrats.
Speaking to your point, what Gavin Newsom is doing by talking about, he actually called California the freedom state. Yeah. And he's spinning it. Trying to make it seem as if California is the cool place where you can do what you want, you can live how you want, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone knows that California has the highest taxes in the country, or some of the highest taxes in the country. Everyone knows that California has significant problems when it comes to crime, when it comes to homelessness,
human feces.
That's among the problems. But if you listen to the way that Gavin Newsom is trying to reframe people's understanding of California, he is trying to make people believe that he is the cool candidate. And that's also what Joe Biden.
He's American Psycho.
I completely agree.
He's Bateman.
He's definitely Patrick
exactly
Bateman.
like him.
I completely.
But Gen Z likes Bateman. They post the memes all the time.
That's true.
But I agree. It's speaking to the point that you're making. He sees the value of being cool, and he is trying to make sure that he gets that. He gets that into people's head.
Remember when Ron DeSantis tried to be cool?
It did not work.
That with the Bateman meme and stuff. It's like, bro, listen. You need to understand what makes you cool. And Ron having that video put out, I guess their campaign put it out and then launched it through a third party or whatever is what they do. Ron should not be. Ron's path to being cool is unique to Ron DeSantis. And making memes of glowing eyes is not the way you do it.
No, he should have done a clip of him hitting a big bag of just a bag, punching bag.
What makes Ron cool is like just being relaxed and authentic and being himself and owning it. So the human behavior. Someone in high school, right? You're in high school. Everyone's sitting around. Someone farts. They get really embarrassed. They fart. And everyone laughs at them for farting and say, "Oh, you did it. You're gross." And the person blushes and they're all like, "Oh man, I'm so embarrassing." And they're like, "That's so gross." Then there's the class clown who goes, "Attention, class," and then stands up and rips one and then starts laughing his ass off, owning it. And that's what more like Trump.
Yeah.
Trump's the guy who farts in the room and then starts laughing.
He just dropped an MFer tonight.
Trump did?
Yeah, when we were talking, he dropped.
Nice.
he dropped.
We got to go to super chats. We're way late. All right, if you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show, become a member at timcast.com if you want to support our work. We're going to read your super chats. We got Clint Torres. He's taken over first place. He says, "Howdy, people."
Hi, Clint.
He's been getting the first super chat in every night.
Yeah, it's true.
So you guys, man, it's been no competition for him.
Did you get the neural net, Clint? Laser fingers.
Really? All right, Ben says, Dianne Feinstein, senator from California, dies at age 90. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The power of attorney wasn't a joke then, I guess. You said she just voted recently?
She voted last night.
How?
For the aviation funding bill.
Somebody voted for her? Is that what it looks like?
And honestly, maybe it was a little bit too soon. I did see somebody earlier say that the Senate is again amending its rule to continue to allow Senator Feinstein to vote. And it was like a little too early.
Porkchopolis says, I heard Feinstein plans to run for re-election from beyond the grave.
See, in the same mold.
Jason Dixon says, Tim, can you please shout out the Discord's Friday after show exclusively in Discord? Hosts are Olivia Clare, Joey Canoli, and Sinoski. Kanoski?
Yeah.
Members welcome. That's right. If you're a member at timcast.com and you sign up to join the Discord server, there will be an after show hosted by Olivia Clare, Joey Canoli, and Kanoski. It's Kanoski, right?
I don't know. That's what everyone's
I say
saying.
Sinoski.
Yeah, I don't know.
Members welcome. And we very much do encourage it. Look, honestly, the Discord members started building their own stuff.
Yeah, it's
like
wild.
you invite a bunch of people into a room, and then you come back a week later, and they've built like a castle. And I'm like, oh wow, thank you. That's very nice. It's very cool. People are doing that. But I'm really excited for the coffee shop when it gets opened.
That'll be sweet.
At some point, we're waiting on permits because we have to do construction stuff inside to keep it up to code to update it.
Okay.
But second floor is going to be really awesome because then members can come hang out, and we're really excited. Imagine all the really cool stuff you can hang out with people if you're in the West Virginia area and DC and play games and watch TV, and it'll be fun. It'll be very, very fun. Let's grab some more super chats. Griffin Street Studio says, Timcast Discord is classist, desperately needs more features and groups for base level $10 a month members. On the right track, needs more for us poors.
Whoa.
You are 100% correct. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, what would be a good example? I know you just super chatted, but of what you could get at $10. Like, what would be a good example? Hit us up. Let us know.
Well, I mean, we are desperately trying, but also consider the membership typically was like we do the after show, and then we launched the Discord as a mean to as a way to bring callers in and then create a communal space. But this is the tough spot. It's like the amount of people that we've added to Timcast membership by creating the cost of the Discord does not cover the cost of the Discord. So just so you guys, so like. A certain amount of people will sign up to be members to watch the after show and support the work we do. We then say we're going to launch new shows with the money we make. We're going to open a coffee shop. We're going to buy ads. We're going to fight the culture war. One of the things we decided to do was launch the Discord. We don't make more money for doing it. In fact, it costs us more money to run the Discord than we actually make by having it. But this is the point. You know what I mean? Like if you came to me and asked me like, hey, what would you buy if you had $1 million? I'd be like, I'd used to win the culture war.
Yeah, you speed rush your theaters.
We'd
build your cultural buildings.
Yeah, so
That's
like
what money's for.
I said this before, I'll say it again. What my salary is at Timcast is based off of the Tim Pool morning show that I produce and host entirely on my own. 95%. Granted, the Timcast infrastructure does benefit to a certain degree, like internet and all that stuff. But then I pay my salary entirely based off of actually less than what is generated from the Tim Pool Daily Show, which is my morning podcast. Everything else that comes from Timcast.com, Timcast IRL, basically just pays for other employees, all the cultural projects we're working on, the Discord server,
People are asking in the chat. They say Discord's free. What do you mean? They're confused.
If you are a Timcast member, we have a members only Discord where you can hang out.
That's paid for by the company. Is that what you're saying? The members only Discord is paid for?
We pay for yes. Like members pay to sign up to our exclusive members only Discord, which gives you access to website stuff, and they sync.
Yeah, it's like free to have Discord, yeah, but in order to have access to our forums and everything like that, you have to pay.
I think people also don't realize that we have staff members who maintain and run and build the things people are asking for.
Every day, yeah.
Like we have a full-time, like Brett's full-time running the Discord.
100%. Yeah.
And then, right. So the amount of users that we have does not okay, so before Discord, we have X users. We launch Discord, we gain a little bit. People are like, oh, this is really interesting. I'm really interested in being involved. But the cost of running Discord is more than the members we added.
Yeah, get it. That solves the question.
So it's like we definitely want to promote the Discord and make it to the point where we can invest in expanding everything. But again, I will stress this. the money we get from everything, like Timcast IRL, Timcast.com memberships, we're investing in the Discord for you guys to have a communal space. We're launching this club so that people will have a physical space to go hang out. I guess I could argue like I don't have to do any of that. I could just put the money in my pocket and say it's my business, it's a private company. I'll go buy a bunch of cars and then buy a private jet or something. But I'm fairly happy with the money I get from the morning show, and I want to win the culture war. So that's why I'll give you an example. We put up billboards in Times Square. Why? It's promotion, it's marketing, obviously. But we added Michael Malice and Luke Rutkowski to them because promoting them, in my view, helps win the culture war. Things like that.
Definitely.
I'm thinking of Civilization. It's like you can, with money, all you can do is build the theaters and the opera houses. But the only way you can create the great works is with the great people. You need the people. Money doesn't buy the people.
No substitute.
So one thing I've purchased for myself with my money is we're building a frog pond.
A frog?
Nice.
A frog pond.
Frogs are
That's right.
sweet.
Tell me more.
We have a little frog pond, and then frogs will swim in it.
Bullfrogs?
Probably.
Oh, I love
They're everywhere, all over the place. Frogs and turtles. And sometimes they jump all the way out here, and then they're just standing in the grass. And I'm like, let's build a little frog.
I got one.
There's no cultural victory. I'm sorry, but I wanted one.
Ponds are awesome.
I got one. I don't know how to stop it. It's called my pool, and I can't keep them out. And I feel bad because they die.
Oh,
Yeah.
the chlorine?
Well, we have the salt one, but they get
too
stuck
much.
in the
It's salty.
skimmer, can't get out.
Let's. I got to read this one.
Sad.
FS Clare says, Tim, the British man who exposed that Canada applauded a Nazi in Parliament, Warren Thornton, was arrested under malinformation. Phil is correct. We are in the Maoist revolution now. Please read this, and people, please wake up. We are in it. So what happened with this guy?
Yeah, I heard about this. So remember how the Canadian Parliament applauded
A literal Nazi.
How could I
Yeah.
forget?
Apparently, they really did start to dispute whether or not, it was as bad as everyone said it was. And I didn't read the story, but I did see something on Twitter that apparently
They arrested the guy?
I don't know if they arrested him, but I did see them go criticize. They might have. They very well might have.
What's
and
his
I wouldn't
name?
be surprised.
What's the guy's
I don't know. I just saw it, scrolling on the timeline. But we don't know where the line is. Tim, I understand what you're saying, but we don't know the line between that snowball when everything goes slow and then it just becomes
Gradually, then suddenly.
Yeah.
Mike Oxard says, this really makes me worried for RFK. The Kennedy curse will be on steroids if he is the reason for Biden losing against none other than Trump.
Yeah.
Greedo says, the next civil war here in the United States will be more like the city-state wars of Italy, where King of Bohemia challenged the Pope for control of the country and the city-states broke up on different sides.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, what year was that?
This is like 1300s,
Wow.
I believe.
Wow.
Like Bologna and Medina had a famous battle over like the bucket. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff.
I'm playing as the Venetian Patriarchs in Crusader Kings 2 right now.
Bo Jiven says, Tim, where is the Culture War podcast and why was the FBI whistleblower episode removed? Please be transparent with loyal viewers. If not, ignore the super chat. It was live. We took it down and uploaded as a standalone video. So it's still there, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's still
okay.
there.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
It just doesn't appear in the live tab. It'll appear in the videos tab because we uploaded it
uploaded.
as a VOD.
That's probably what they're on.
Why there was no episode today? Because our guest canceled on us on Monday. Our backup guest canceled on us Thursday morning.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay,
What to
like,
do
well,
now?
sometimes this happens.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. And couldn't do anything about it.
We should just jam next time. That's too early.
No, we had a backup. We have a triple backup plan. But I said no. It was like, it's basically like we had a really, really, really great guest that was very difficult to book and they canceled on us again.
Yeah.
And upset about that. And then we have a backup roster of people who are interested in coming on. And we said, hey, we have the spot opened up and this is Monday. Can you come? And then they missed their flight. And we're like, I'm just not coming. And we were like, okay. And then our final plan was, let's do a cultural episode with our existing friends and guests. And it's like, I don't think we can pull that off. We have to plan for it better. But the idea was just to get like people you've already known who we hang out with just to come and hang out again. And Rogan does this. That's why he'll have his buddies on.
Oh, yeah, those fight companions and stuff.
But that works because that's his only show. For us to take IRL friends and guests and do a culture war episode defeats the purpose of what the culture war is.
Right.
So I was like, if we could get literally anybody else, we could have like 2 IRL friends with any other person and then have a conversation that's unique that we don't do on IRL. But
I don't know. I don't know who the guests were, and I don't need to know. But I saw
I'm not gonna drag them for not
Destiny,
showing up.
Vosh, and Emma Vigland were all in D.C. shooting a video. I watched them all talking at a table. I would love to have them over and do that here.
Well, you know, Phil
they were in town.
was pointing out that's because of us, right?
Yeah,
We
I
started
think so.
doing podcasts with Congress, and now all of a sudden the left is trying to do it.
That's what it
awesome.
seems like to me. I imagine people in Congress took notice that, you know, Tim Pool is up there at Capitol Hill talking to Congress people, and they started to say, oh, hey, that's a smart idea, especially considering, you know, it is going into the election season
Right.
now, you know. So,
Well, good for them. I'm glad they did it. I wish I would have known. I would have asked Destiny if he could have come down, because we could have had another. Oh yeah, because that would work for another culture war hanging
for
out.
sure. For
Destiny's good.
Yeah.
I Destiny and Vosh I think would be a good conversation.
That'd be wild.
Emma I thought was a bit silly.
Yeah, it looked pretty cool. I only caught 10 minutes of what they were doing, but it looked pretty nice that they're outside.
Actually, it would have been epic if we had Destiny, Vosh, me, and Phil and did a culture war. That would have been lit.
yes. Maybe
That's
they'll
too
come
bad.
back.
Yeah, maybe we should reach out to them, see if they want to
Couple
do
weeks, yeah.
it. Would you want to do it?
I'll do it.
Yeah,
That'd be
I think
great.
that'd be epic.
Yeah.
Vosh asked me.
It-
Good.
was it?
No, Vosh asked me to come on. Vosh one time wanted me to come on to his stream, and I turned him down
nice.
because I'm not going on Vosh's stream
He's a communist.
because I'm not going to help him monetize.
Yeah.
Whatever, man. I get it. I do.
Not gonna
right.
help me, a good capitalist.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, you know, he wants to have the rock star on, and I'm sorry, but you don't just get to have the rock star. That's all there is to it.
But this is why they have to call you failed.
That's right.
They have to act like they're cooler than everybody. But to be fair, I will give us on this. First, as I said, I have tremendous respect for the success he has. It's not easy. It's stupid to me when people are like, Trump's a moron, he's a failure. I'm like, no, he's not. He's a billionaire. Taylor Swift is awful. Her music sucks. I'm like, dude, clearly it doesn't.
objectively not.
She's rich, you're not. And Hassan clearly is successful and is looked at by many people as being a cool dude. That's totally fine. I respect that. But to his credit, a component of being that charismatic figure is controlling the narrative around who is cool and who is not. So for Hassan to have a massive audience, act like a tough guy and say he's cool, that's a component. Trump is a tough guy who pushes people around. It's part of cool factor.
Yep.
Well, it's hard. It's a hard thing to define, you know.
I don't like bully cool. Oh, sorry. to
No, go
interrupt
ahead,
you.
go ahead.
Yeah,
cool
bu-
factor. It's not the epitome of it. Success really is.
It actually, the cool kids that were bullies made me hate humanity. So I've got to, you got to be careful because sometimes.
But they're different than somebody like a Donald Trump is like. I mean,
he's the
people have
same,
to
yeah.
understand. A lot of people call him a bully, but when you're him and you're constantly under attack and you're constantly needing to defend yourself, it can't be easy to be Donald
You're
Trump.
right, but as soon as someone's nice to Trump, he's nice to them. You know, as much
So
as
that's
you
his
know,
currency.
Yep.
That really is his currency.
He's a great listener.
Jason Dixon says, Tim, none of the after shows hosts and shows are paid, full volunteers. We did it for free. We do it for culture. This is fact, true and correct. What the members are building in the member Discord is completely organic and from them based on the goodness of their hearts and what they want to do and what they think we need to do. My point about the cost of running the Discord is basically just the infrastructure staff. Brett runs it. Then we have IT people behind the scenes for maintaining. There's code involved in the website integration and things like that. So there is a greater cost to it. That being said, guys, I am paying attention to what's going on in the Discord server, and I'll just leave it at that. Like, I certainly think there's an opportunity for something beyond just what we have, and a way to do something more for the shows that are already in existence on the Timcast members only. Like, there's no reason why they shouldn't just be filmed, so we'll talk about it when we get the club set up. I'm thinking it would be really cool to actually get equipment, invest in it, and
Have a desk there for
provide it for the member community after shows.
It'd be cool.
And then actually have the videos available alongside the shows on Discord, and just film it and have them for everybody.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
So, all right, everybody, if you haven't already, please smash that like button, would you kindly? And subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, head over to timcast.com, become a member. Next week, we are in Miami. This is going to be epic. Luke will be on all week for the show at a special studio location where we will be filming. Friday's show will be an exclusive members-only live event with Matt Gaetz, Patrick Bet-David, James O'Keefe, and a ton of people are going to be there. The guest list of like,
Wild.
yeah, I think it's like 20 plus
Stacked.
people that you guys know and love. And one of the reasons why I said, we're going to do it members only. The obvious, guys, we really do try to build memberships. It's what runs the company. So if there's an opportunity and we're doing an event and it's like, well, if we're selling tickets to it, giving it away for free online defeats the purpose of selling tickets. We want to build up memberships. But the big question that came up was, hey, someone could sit in the front row and scream bad things. And we're like, well, then we're going to have to figure that one out audio wise. And it's like, well, you really can't. And it's like, that's a fair point. Maybe we should just take it off YouTube. And then I'm like, well, if we just do it members only, we can literally go nuts. We actually go nuts. Yeah. People can talk about whatever they want to talk about. It's
nudity.
Us.
Yeah.
No, I'm
just saying we can. I'm not saying I'm gonna. I'm not saying I'm gonna get naked on Friday. I'm not saying.
But it means we don't have to worry. We don't have to worry so much. We're gonna have the clips up. The full podcast will be available on Apple and Spotify and all of that for the show itself. But it means that we're gonna have all the time in the world for the venue, which means there's gonna be a pre-after show with the special guests. We'll probably have people jump up on stage periodically and just go nuts and just have a really good time. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there, and become a member at Timcast. Go to timcast.com, click join us. We're gonna have 2 YouTube videos put up next week explaining how to sign up. One on Monday and then one on Friday just before the show for those that want to watch it. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Rich, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, people can just go ahead and follow me if they want to check out the polls we're going to do. We're going to find out who RFK hurts for sure real soon. They could do that at peoplespundit.locals.com. That's the central hub, Tim. That's the only place you got to go. You'll see it all from there.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, YouTube, Pandora, the internet.
I'm Ian Crossan. You got follow me on the internet. I will see you next week in Florida. I'm super pumped. Rich, great energy, man. Good to see you again, dude. Man, always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. All the best, brother.
Oh, yeah. Serge.
Yeah, I'm excited to be in Miami. It's gonna be fun. Hit me up on Twix. I feel like I'm close to another 1,000 people, which is cool. Also, follow me on Instagram. It'd be cool to get more on there.
It's 82 in Miami.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet. I can't wait for Miami. Out of this weird, overcast West Virginia weather. Anyways,
all right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. And the next time we see you, we'll be in Miami.